There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to episode 7 of the Western Huntsman Podcast. Glad you guys are here. Super excited about this episode. You know, I say that in every episode, but I am. This is like my favorite episode. They're all my favorite episodes, so I'm going to say that every time. I'm glad you guys are here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for everybody who's been going to the Foundation for Wildlife Management and getting their memberships. I know there's been some increases going on with the organization, and people are typing in the Western Huntsman Podcast, which, by the way, is getting them entered in to win a Phelps Bugle Tube and a Maverick Reed. It's a nice little September package for you. Or, you know, obviously if you want to use them in October and November, you can use them. You can call elk in October and November, despite popular belief. So, thanks for doing that, and if you guys haven't yet, head on over to the f4wm.org website and get your membership for the Foundation for Wildlife Management. They're the ones that connect people that want wolves managed with people that have the ways and means to do it. It's a great organization. It's worth the $35, and it's helping us all out, getting these wolves under control like they need to be. This is going to be, let's see, we are in the first week of February. We're coming off the Super Bowl, which, by the way, let me make a comment about that. If you guys, so I don't watch sports. I'm not a sports guy. I like to play sports, but I don't watch a lot of sports. In fact, the Super Bowl is probably the only game I watch all year, and sometimes that's even questionable. I don't even watch the Super Bowl most of the time, but I did this year, and I had my 8-year-old and my 10-year-old in there with me, and my wife was in there. We're watching the Super Bowl, and there's like this theme, right? I'm going to call this the great hypocrisy or something. I need to come up with a name for it, but they had this underlying theme with all the ads and some of the promo videos they were playing throughout the Super Bowl, where it's like this woman empowerment thing, right? You know, they talked about the 49ers have, I can't remember, she's like a lineman coach or something like that for the 49ers, first woman coach to go to the Super Bowl, and they're advertising these videos these shows on TV where the main character is like this woman hero and all this woman empowerment type kind of ads, which is great. I don't have any problem with it, so don't get me wrong. That's not what the problem is. The problem is they do this ridiculous halftime show where you get Shakira and Jennifer Lopez dressed and acting like they're in a freaking strip club. Jennifer Lopez is grabbing her crotch on national TV. They're shaking their asses all over the place, objectifying women like never before on national television. This is not, like, how is that entertainment, first of all? Who the hell watches that kind of stuff? Who even listens to that kind of music? I don't even know what they're singing about. But it was nasty, and I had to, like, explain to my kids why it's not okay to make it look like you're pleasuring yourself on national TV dressed like a freaking stripper. Fuck that. That stuff is out of control. And it's such a contradiction as to the overall underlying message of the entire Super Bowl. And I don't care if they want to do that on like HBO late at night or something like that, and people want to watch that, I don't care. I'm not judging anybody for that kind of stuff. But to put it on the Super Bowl right there at the halftime show where these things are supposed to be kind of family events, I don't know. I was like disgusted with that. What a bunch of bullshit. Anyway, man, I tell you what, you see how this works? I get off on a rant and I go right down a rabbit hole. I didn't mean to go that direction. So this next episode, I'm going to switch gears. Let's get back to a hunting podcast. I'm not like a pop culture commentary dude or anything like that. So let's get back to the podcast. In this episode, I'm sitting down with Keith Boe, who is in North Idaho, kind of he's like this legend around here. Everybody knows him especially if you're on Facebook. He's got this page called North Idaho Life. He's a real estate agent that is super widely known and popular. Everybody knows him, and he just opened up a restaurant, and he's a crazy good hunter. And he travels all over the place to hunt. And he's one of those guys that got into it like adult onset hunting kind of thing. I think he mentioned he was 24 years old when he went on his first real actual hunt in the state of Washington. And so it's cool to listen to him. He's an expert bear hunter. And he's also a chef, hence why he started the restaurant Iron Pizza Company here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which you guys need to check that place out. It's sweet. It's badass. Great pizza, great atmosphere. Matt, his lead chef and partner in the restaurant, is super friendly and really good at what he does, and they just make excellent pizzas. And they're not like paying me or anything to say that. I legitimately mean that. So, and Keith, him and I sit down and we have this really good conversation about hunting and cooking wild game and recipes and hunting bear. We talk about the restaurant and all this stuff, so it's a good episode for you guys to tune in. It's we go just about 2 hours, so I always like that. I always like it when they go long. So if you guys are like me, I drive a lot, so I listen to a lot of podcasts. Keith Boe is also up for, we have this thing in North Idaho where you can vote for best realtor, best restaurant, best HVAC company, best plumber, all these different things you can vote for. And so he's up for that on the real estate board for this year. So be sure if you guys want to jump on and check that out and give him a vote, I'm sure he'd appreciate that. So let's get this episode kicked off with Keith Boe. You guys are going to like it, and jump on. Make sure you guys are. Oh, by the way, we're almost done getting all the wolf T-shirt ideas coming down the line here. I've gotten a lot of good ideas, so I'm ready to get them on a T-shirt and get them on the website to be sold, so we can donate some more money to Foundation for Wildlife Management. If you guys have any other ideas for those T-shirts, be sure to send me an email at jim@thewesternhuntsman.com, and I will get that stuff downloaded over to the printer so we can get those T-shirts ready to go. No, I'm not. I was gonna spill the beans on a couple of the ideas, but I'm not. I'm gonna keep them a secret. So send me your ideas, jim@thewesternhuntsman.com. Let's get some kick-ass T-shirts going. And as for now, listen in. Here we go with Keith Boe, North Idaho Life. Hey guys, I am back at it here, and this week I'm sitting down with Keith Boe, and this is episode, I believe, number 7 for the Western Huntsman podcast. So welcome everybody. I'm here. This is the guy that I sat down. I was telling you guys in the last episode that we got together and we got talking too much before recording, and then we kind of ran out of time, so we rescheduled it. And Keith is like a local legend in North Idaho. So it's a pleasure of mine to sit down with Keith, and we're going to talk all sorts of things hunting, and we're sitting in Iron Pizza Company in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It's Coeur d'Alene's probably new smash hit restaurant, so we're pretty excited to be here. And Keith, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks. It's an honor to be here.
So we're going to go for round 2 here.
All right, sounds good. I know when we were here last time, we could have talked for 6, 7, 8, 10 hours.
Right.
It was awesome.
Yeah, that's how. You know what we should have done is set up the mics before we sat down, and because we had some great conversations before we hit record.
We did, yeah.
Missed some good content.
We did, yeah. Totally.
So Keith, I want to what the purpose of this episode is. I want to talk hunting, some bear hunting, some wild game recipes, and talk about Iron Pizza. You were just telling me that you're going to have an elk steak pizza coming out.
Right. So it's artisan pizza, chef driven, and I'm of course a big game hunter. And food is I don't really watch TV, so in the evening when I relax, I go home, put on some nice music, some jazz music, and then I just play in my kitchen. Is how I relax, And being a hunter, putting all that together, a really quality, good pizza, and especially incorporate elk steak or something like that. So in the works, we have planned in the future to have an elk steak pizza.
Yeah, well, put me down for one.
All right, you're on.
I need to be on the list.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's start with talking. Give us a little Keith Boe history. Where are you from originally?
Originally, I was born in Omaha, Nebraska, and a long time ago, obviously. My dad was a Marine. My grandmother's twin brother gave the ultimate sacrifice in Guadalcanal. When I was a kid, that's all me and my older brother did, is basically play Army and play war. Our house had a pretty good-sized yard, and it backed up to a creek. Back then, it was called a crick. And we'd take our guns, we'd have war fights, we'd build forts, all that kind of stuff. My dad would drill us in the basement, Marine Corps drills, me and my brother, stand up straight, suck in that gut, you maggot, you're a disgrace, and that kind of thing. And good memories. I used to take his uniforms to show and tell, and that's kind of the world I grew up in back in Nebraska there years and years ago.
Yeah, so and Marines, I tend to do this. I've interviewed a couple people where they're either Marines themselves or their parents were Marines or somebody. So, which again near and dear to my heart.
Yeah,
so.
my dad wanted to be the best when he went in. He grew up as an orphan in World War II, and he wanted to be the best. He saw the Marines take the South Pacific, Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal. When he came of age, that's all he wanted to be. He wanted to be the best, rough and toughest, the first in, first to the fight, and that's how he was. And I was the same way, but when I was a teenager, I had long hair, was in a rock band. So it skipped one generation, but my oldest son, that's all he wanted to be ever since he was a kid. He was 2 years old. He wanted to be a Marine all his life. Yeah. He went in, he served in 3-5 Dark Horse Battalion, rockets and heavy mortars.
Yeah.
An interesting thing about my son Mick is when he came out, he was 2 inches shorter than when he came in.
You know what? I was too. Well, I was only 1 inch. I'm 1 inch shorter than when I went in.
Yeah, and it's the packing heavy loads. The 81 millimeter mortar plate and all that kind of stuff, and then compressing all his joints and spine. He's got it back. He's been out. I think this summer will be his 3rd year since he's been home.
Yeah.
And he says he's got his 2 inches back.
Yeah, it's amazing what that does. So I came out an inch shorter. And now I suffer with chronic knee pain because of the Marine Corps infantry. But you know what? It is what it is. So I wouldn't change it.
All right, Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you got into hunting. You kind of have an interesting background in terms of how you got into hunting, because it's not like your dad was way into it, right? You just kind of got into it by yourself.
Yeah, which I think it makes me more passionate about hunting too, is that I got into it as an adult. And as I said, me and my brother lived in the creek, and catching crawdads and leeches and making forts and fighting all the neighborhood kids, with sticks, sword fights, ambushes. That's how we grew up. That's how we had fun. Mm-hmm. And but my dad, when he got out of the Marines, one of his Marine friends took him duck hunting, and he shot a duck and felt bad. And it just wasn't for him. But he loves hunting. He loves the adventure of it. He loves the manliness of it. He loves eating the wild game meat. But he's just not the kind of guy that wants to pull the trigger,
Sure.
And I get that. When I was, I think it was in Cub Scouts when I was a kid, we're camping somewhere, and some kid brought a BB gun, and I shot a bird, and it was just no reason for it. Here's a bird, here's a BB gun, and I shot the bird out of the tree, and I just felt sick.
Yeah.
It wasn't for any reason. I wasn't hunting. That wasn't my prey. And so I get that how Dad felt that way. It just wasn't in him. But, when you're out there hunting, you got a gun, and you're pursuing your game, it's so different.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's so different, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's an interesting take, too. I mean, I've done that, too, where I shot a bird or something. I don't remember. I grew up, my family had a ranch, and so there was lots of rabbits and muskrats and stuff like that. Yeah. We didn't trap them. We shot them.
Yeah.
Because it was open fields and stuff. And I did feel bad about that kind of stuff. It's just like kind of a pointless end,
well,
right?
In my case, I was a kid. I was, 8, 10 years old. And it was just something that just wasn't right.
Yeah.
But one thing I used to do when I had my farm, we used to have 20 acres in Washington, and I'd tell the kids, I'll go in the house, Daddy's going to mow the field. And I'd run my tractor around the very outskirts of the field and spiral my way in towards the center. And I put on my leather Indiana Jones fedora, and I had my .45 long Colt on my hip, loaded with birdshot. And as I got closer to the middle of this field, then little voles and the field mice would start to make a run for it. And I used to Doc Holliday 6-gun them as they're trying to escape out of the field. But that was different.
Pretty good shot.
Yeah, anyway. So, so I never hunted, but I just loved the adventure of it. Growing up playing Army, playing Marine, playing war, that kind of thing. And, of course, my dad took us shooting all the time when we were kids. He took immaculate care of his gun. The rifle, the .22 I grew up shooting as a kid, is in absolute mint condition today in my dad's gun safe. He was very passionate about his gun care and cleaning and all that, and not a scratch on it. Looks brand new.
Wow.
And but I grew up shooting, but never hunting. So when I got older and I got a job as an engineer with a phone company, one of my friends who used to be a Washington Husky lineman, defensive lineman, was going hunting, and I was just fascinated and enthralled by it. Tell me hunting stories. Tell me about your gun. It's a bolt action. I remember watching that show when I was a kid, The Land That Time Forgot. It's a really old show from the 70s. And they get lost. They end up on some island. There's dinosaurs there. And so the men go to the boat and they get their bolt action rifles, a wooden stock bolt action gun, and they're shooting at dinosaurs. That was just the coolest thing in the world. And so the more I asked him questions, I was just absolutely fascinated and enthralled by it. So one day I said, hey, can you take me out hunting? I think I was 24 years old, I think. And he's like, yeah, you got a gun? And I'm like, no. Can I borrow one? He's like, no. So I went to the gun store, and I bought the most Keith Boe gun I could find anywhere. It was a 1917 British Enfield World War 1917 British Enfield bolt-action rifle, 303 British, and open sights, wood stock. I was in heaven.
Nice.
And I bought some ammo for it, 180 grain soft points. And I shot the living fire out of that thing. I mean, I fired at the range. I practiced and practiced and practiced. I loved it.
And this was out in by Seattle? Or,
North Seattle, Arlington, which is about 50 miles northwest of Seattle. But anyway, the concussion from pulling the trigger on that thing, the boom.
Oh, yeah.
Working around in the bolt, I absolutely was in heaven. And then he was going to take me up hunting around North Bend for deer. First time in my life. And when I grew up in Nebraska, nothing in Nebraska bites. So you could, I guess mountain lions have moved in recent times.
Yeah, they've got mountain lions now for sure.
But back then, never, ever, 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 ever.
Yeah.
And you could walk from one end of the state to the other with a pork chop tied around your neck, and nothing would come near you. Right?
Yeah.
Nothing bites.
No grizzlies?
Nope, nothing. And so when I was up in Washington State, out in the deep woods, in the national forest, and there's bears live here, and mountain lions live here. That was pretty dang freaky for a kid like me. Grew up in Nebraska, And so we show up to go hunting, and I brought my 1917 British Enfield, and he looked at me like I was out of my gourd. He had a Seiko 300 Win Mag, a plastic stock scope on it. He's all camoed out. I'm wearing a brown suede jacket, tall boots, and fedora, and he thinks I'm just out of my mind, right? But I loved it. And the thing I love most about hunting is just the adventure, the excitement, the danger, the isolation. So it kind of goes back from when I'm a kid. I got my bolt-action rifle, and I'm sneaking through the woods. I'm being as quiet as a mouse. I'm listening. I'm observing. The wildlife and the things you see and you hear is something you can never experience anywhere else.
No.
And getting spooked by a grouse, looking for bears, and on the super sneak like a ninja, listening for any wood cracks from a bear ripping up a stump or something like that. And then right at your feet, of course, those dumb grouse wait until the last moment. Right at your feet. It'll make you jump out of your socks,
Oh, yeah.
And I just loved everything about it. And so I picked it up later in life, and it gave me an extreme passion for the woods and for hunting and for the pursuit of game and all that really made me quite fanatical.
Yeah, and so that was out in Washington. How'd you come to North Idaho?
Well, I say I'm an escapee from Washington. My only regret is that I didn't move to North Idaho 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we were looking to get out big time. We didn't mix politically in the state, and both from personal beliefs, politics. I'm a super conservative guy. I'm probably the most conservative guy I've ever met. And I just felt like I didn't belong anymore. And so we sold my business. It's a telecommunications business. Phone systems. My customers are Swedish Hospital. I sold that, kind of semi-retired out here about 7 years ago, and just been in heaven ever since.
Good.
Yeah.
So you've been out here about 7 years?
About 7 years, yeah.
Good. So just so the listeners know, we are sitting in a restaurant. So some of the noise you hear, we just had there was somebody that walked in and sat down. It looks like they were going for one of the tap beers over there. But anyway, so if you hear some background noise, guys, that's what it is.
We're on location here at Iron Pizza Company and Tap House in Coeur Lane, 4th and Apple Way. And I thought it was a lot of fun being here. And could I just mention a couple things about the restaurant?
Yeah, definitely.
So the theme here in the restaurant is the Idaho outdoors, the North Idaho woods. So on the front wall, you can see, Jim, there's a projector above the fish, and it has clouds and stars, and the whole thing moves.
It's moving, yep.
Because people love three things in North Idaho. They love hiking, backyard bonfires, and camping, and this kind of the outdoors.
Yep.
Right? So I have the night sky, this big, humongous blown glass chandelier. It looks like a Dale Chihuly. That's supposed to represent the Milky Way galaxy.
Okay.
And think of this, Jim. You're in a tent. You're out camping up in the Selkirks, right? This is what you're looking at.
Yeah.
As you're drinking your beer, having a bonfire. And then on this wall above, next to the aspen tree, is the moon. It's a copper art piece, and it's pretty cool. We have a Blue River bar.
A lot of these are from local artists, right?
Almost all of it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's from local artists. The Blue River bar is kind of interesting. So it's a live edge bar top made out of live edge alder, and it's poured with the glow blue epoxy in the middle like a river. And it's got side streams, islands, everything else. The entire river glows. So this is a cool guy. His name's Ricky Valdez. And we were going to do a copper bar top for being Idaho and copper. But Matt, he's my chef partner, he says, my neighbor makes these really cool skateboards. I want you to look at them. And I'm like, oh, okay. So right there, I saw this guy, and his skateboards are cool, like longboards. But he does live edge wood and this blue glow epoxy, and they actually glow in the dark. So if you take it out in the sunlight, it'll pick up the glow. And at night, the Blue River glows in these skateboards. It's like, dang, those are really cool.
Yeah.
So I said, this guy Ricky, I said, do you think you could build a 26-foot long bar top? He's like, I don't know, but hell yeah, let's do it. And he built this thing in one piece in his garage, and it's absolutely glorious. So we have the Blue River bar top. We have an antique.
Oh, it's amazing.
We have an antique wooden canoe. As you're sitting in a canopy at the bar. Lots of art around. And we're going to come up with a pamphlet, The Art of Iron Pizza, and have like an I Spy game in here. So we got bats. We got taxidermied bats, actually. If you saw
I saw the taxidermied bat.
Yeah, there's a bat hanging behind the bar, and it's
a skeleton, too.
Split down the middle. He's skeleton on the left side and hair on, taxidermy on the right side, split down the middle. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a little bit of Iron Pizza, but it's really fun to have Jim here, and especially do the show on location.
It is.
It's a really
fun.
great idea.
It's good sometimes. Usually we're in the Broken Tine studio up in Hayden.
Yeah.
And we love being out there, but it's actually kind of nice to get out of location and come out and sit down, and especially somewhere like this, because it's if you guys listening to this culturally are familiar with North Idaho, it's the essence of North Idaho in here. You even have a jackalope.
Yeah.
Is it jackalope season this spring yet? Or
no? That one actually, I shot that in the Palouse a few years ago, and he charged me and my buddy. And
you got out alive?
Yeah, I put the barrel basically right between his middle eye, right between the eyes, and charged point blank and dropped him.
Holy cow!
So we were pretty fortunate for that.
They're dangerous as all get out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to talk about that mount behind you, the European red deer. What is that?
Fallow deer.
Fallow deer.
So I used to work for Sizzle Magazine as the PR director, and got to know all the restaurants, the restaurateurs, the chef. Got to know everyone in the region from Spokane to North Idaho and surrounding areas. And there's Adam Hegstead. He's a big-time restaurateur. He owns probably 14 restaurants, I think. And at the Gilded Unicorn in Spokane, it's downstairs. Used to be the old catacombs, downtown Spokane in the basement cellar. A really, really, really cool place. Neat atmosphere. And his wife's an art dealer, and they have a big fireplace. On the fireplace, there's a golden unicorn head, which looks kind of silly. And then underneath the unicorn head, there's a music rifle. And it's actually a bolt-action rifle, but all the parts are made out of antique instruments.
Like a clarinet kind of thing.
Yeah. And so the barrel's an antique clarinet. The tubes in the rifle magazine is made out of tuba valves. And it's really kind of cool. But I thought the whole thing was just really clever, where he had his unicorn and then the magic rainbow gun that slayed the beast. I thought it was pretty clever. So I talked to Adam. I said, to tip my hat to, I'd like to do the same thing at Iron Pizza. And he's like, hell yeah, do it. So I got a hold of the artist. He made me a gun just like Adam's, and the barrel's an antique clarinet, like an old blunderbuss shotgun. And then I couldn't find a mythical beast, and I didn't want to do a golden unicorn head, obviously, but I wanted something cool. So it took me months to find the mythical beast to hang with the rifle. And I finally found I speak German, and so I got on German eBay and was just searching around for stuff, and I found this mount. It was perfect. It's a European fallow deer, and it was shot in the 1840s in the Black Forest of Germany. And it was killed by an Italian aristocrat, and he had this mount made up. So if your listeners aren't familiar with a fallow deer, their antlers palm like a moose, but the front tines are like an elk. So it looks almost like a Dr. Seuss kind of thing, like a half moose, half elk kind of thing.
I thought it was kind of like this just sculpture, piece of art, but it's a real Euro mount.
Yeah,
it's from the 1840s.
From the 1840s.
It's amazing.
Yep. And it's completely real. And it's the skull is painted the same brown as the antlers are, and then they put some wooden eyeballs in the skull, and then the shield is very interesting and vintage looking with the curly cues and everything on it. And so I want to put the Iron Pizza logo in between his antlers on that shield it's hanging on. So I have my mythical beast, and then I have my sonic blaster that slayed the beast, and I just thought it was kind of cool. People love that gun, and and some of these violins here on the wall. People take pictures of those all the time when they're in here eating. Take pictures of some of the art and some of the decor we have in the place.
Yeah, we're gonna get a selfie with standing in front of that fallow deer. I think that'll be. I'll use that for the marketing for this episode.
And the bolt action on that gun, it works. It works. You can actually work the bolt on it. You can't fire anything through the clarinet, but you can.
Keith let me hold it.
Yeah, I did.
Cool.
I did.
Yep. Yeah. And then I like the fly fishing decor in here. Who made those?
The guy's name is Jason Sanchez. So he's known for making these really cool mechanical fish at the Blackwell Gallery on Sherman Avenue. And he's a war vet, combat vet. He lives just in walking distance here at the restaurant. And so one thing I found is that if you want to buy a piece of art, the best way to go about it is to contact the artist directly and commission a piece. Galleries have a pretty big markup. So this guy's fish is really, really cool. And so I want to commission build me a robot fish. And you see it back there behind the bar?
Oh, yeah, I see it.
So the head is like from Easter Island. And people laugh when they see that. If you ever see the movie Night of the Museum, and you had the big Easter Island head, and it'd come alive, and it'd say, "Dum Dum want gum gum." So when people recognize the movie, they get to laugh. But the fish is sitting in front of the Easter Island head, and it's about 3 feet long, I think.
Yeah, right? And it's got like spatulas and spoons and all sorts of chef tools, right?
Yeah, so many kitchen stuff. So the head is a Moscow Mule cup, copper Moscow Mule cup. The mouth, the bottom jaw is a copper serving spoon.
Yep.
And all the fins are spatulas and cake knives, that kind of thing. And when you look through the rib cage, you can see his heart and lungs. That's actually an antique blender motor. And you can spin it with your finger and make the thing move. Yeah. And but it's pretty cool. It's got lots of copper and lots of parts to it. The rear end is actually a wine bottle opener. And one of my favorite features about that fish is that I bought this antique fork years and years ago. And the antique fork is also from the 1840s. And none of my kids would touch it. It sat in a silverware drawer, and the kids are all afraid of it. The fork is tarnished. It's skinny. It's funny looking. It looks like something you'd find out of a haunted house. It's kind of creepy. And as I said to Jason, I said, do me a favor, take this old fork, cut it up, repurpose it, and make it a fishing lure and hang in the fish's mouth. And so on the fork, you can still see the monogram initials, the original owner, the dates on the back, on the top part, and then the hooks on the lure, actually the tines from the fork. And it's the only one in existence that Jason has ever made that actually has a fishing lure in its mouth.
I think that it highlights, for you guys listening, if you're, because we're right off of I-90, right?
Right. Yep.
So if you guys are traveling from Missoula over to Spokane or Seattle to wherever, I-90 is a main thoroughfare up here in the Northwest that if you guys cruising down, what is that, the 4th Street exit?
Yep.
That's the closest one. Jump off and check this place out. It'll really you'll get a real good glimpse of what the kind of the essence of North Idaho. And then obviously I have a lot of listeners that are local. Yeah. So Iron Pizza Company for sure. This is now. Are you going to give me like a sponsorship, like a promo code I can use on the website, and you're going to pay me some big commission to send people here? And we're going to set that up, right?
I can give you a promo code, I think, but I don't know about the big commission part.
Dang, nobody's going to pay me a commission. I don't know what's going on here.
It depends how much beer your listeners come in and drink. I
guess. Know what?
Yeah.
Beer is a good commission check for me. I'll take it.
All right.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, let's do that. So by the time whether we mention it on this episode or I can put it in the show notes, maybe we'll come up with a promo code so people can. Perfect. Yeah, a little incentive to come in and check out the new restaurant.
If I can, the pizza's all chef driven. So our dough we make in house. We ferment the dough 5 days, and when you open that dough bin on day 5, it just smells of alcohol. Because the yeast and everything's just been fermenting for 5 days on it. And then we cook the pizza. Well, we brush the dough with garlic confit. We have our own seasoning blend we put on the dough. And then we have a 4-compartment stone oven that gets up to 850 degrees, and we cook it on that, and lots of high-end toppings. So like our pepperoni, for example, it's a 3.5-inch round gourmet pepperoni. It is phenomenal. It's delicate. It's elegant. It's delicious. But and then lots of beers on tap. We got hard ciders. We got craft beer, that kind of thing. But,
like local craft beer?
Yeah, you bet.
Nice. Okay, and then you guys
beers we have are just made down the street.
And you guys also do the take and bake too. So I'm gonna take some pizza home tonight after this. So
yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, you guys check out Iron Pizza Company.
So let's talk hunting.
Circle. Yeah, we better circle back to hunting here for a minute. Yeah. So we were talking. You'd moved over here. What do you hunt mostly around here?
Well, being who I am and having the passion I do and the reasons behind that passion, my favorite thing to hunt is bear. Mm-hmm. And black bear. And the reason why I love that so much is it's in my mind the most dangerous thing a guy can do is to go out by himself and pursue a bear. And there's nobody out there. You got the mountain all to yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's not a party hunt. There's not an orange vest on every 100 yards kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's nobody there. It's me. It's my weapon. It's my stealth, my silence, my binoculars. And I'm going after something that could potentially take me out. Mm-hmm. And I've never let one go. Whatever happens, it's the bear or me. I've crawled on my hands and knees after him. I've looked for him in the dark with a pen light, and I'm not letting that thing get away. And,
so I know you've baited him in the past, but how do you go about? What's your method now?
I did a bait hunt once with a guy, and that was cool. But I've always done spot and stalk.
Okay.
And, so get up in the high ridges. The berries are ripe. Pair of binoculars, and the big thing that most people don't do is listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to. Let's talk about that. What are you listening for?
There was one place I called. What did I name this? It was a ridgeline in a tiny valley, and it was a heck of a long hike to get up there. And I think I called it Pleasant Valley was my name for it. You know how, Jim, how hunting is such, you get such highs and lows.
Oh, absolutely.
You get euphoric highs and then deep depression, right?
Yep.
And I kind of learned something about myself a little bit. I've never been one to carry much with me. I kind of go in pretty light. Just have my essentials, my knife, my ammo, my gun, that kind of thing. And I hiked up to this ridge, and it was a hot day. It was opening day of bear season. And I was out by myself, a couple hours away from home at least, and hiked up this big thing. And I started getting really depressed. And I wasn't sure why, really depressed. And I usually don't carry water. I should. Everyone says I should. I'm just kind of a camel. And I pulled out my water and started drinking it. And then I had a sense of lightness and joy and happiness in this place I called Pleasant Valley. And it wasn't a valley at all. I'm up on some mountain ridge, right? But what I kind of learned about being dehydrated is when you start to get dehydrated, you start to get depressed. Mm-hmm. And then I had some water in it, and I completely changed. Anyway, so I'm sitting up there on this high ridge just listening, right? Mm-hmm. And a bear is really kind of a ghost. And then I heard a rock overturn, like in a creek bed. That's a bear. And then a while later, you hear a bear start to rip on a stump. And so the best way to hunt for bear, in my opinion, is to get up out there, because they're shy. They don't like to be around people. Yeah. You get as isolated as you can. Whether it's behind a gate, whether it's a long hike, you get as far away from humans as you can. In high air, lots of bear sign. And you have binoculars, but a lot of it's really thick up there. And you just listen. And you listen for it, a stump being torn open. And there's a long pause, but you might hear a crack on a stump. Mm-hmm. It'll be quiet for 10 minutes. And hear a crack on a stump, and start sneaking in that direction, and keep your eyes peeled, and be really, really, really quiet. Another thing about me is I'm not a guy who's ever worn camo, and that's something that makes me kind of a bit of an oddball. So, the way I think about it is Theodore Roosevelt didn't wear camo. And he used to hunt grizzly bears on his own.
Yeah, that's true.
And Peter Capstick didn't wear camo. Robert Rourke didn't wear camo. My grandfather didn't wear camo. They were quiet.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. I don't know how much your listeners have ever done this, but I can stalk an animal in plain sight with no cover. So I had a couple blacktails once. And every time they put their head down, I'd slowly move forward. Lift right up, I freeze. Mm-hmm. The deer's looking right at me. He did not catch me moving. He puts his head down, I sneak forward, he lifts his head up or twitches, I freeze. You can stalk him right in broad daylight. No camo at all. And I've done the same thing on pretty much every game there is. There was once I was antelope hunting in Wyoming. Once I was antelope hunting in Wyoming and had mule deer and antelope tags. And I crawled down this dry creek bed. And then I think they were deer, mule deer. They started coming out of the trees. And I'm busted. I got no cover. I'm over the hump of this dry creek bed. I'm in plain sight, and I start to see their legs in the trees. I just freeze, right? And I was there with my stepdad, and we had walkie-talkies. And he sees the deer, right? And he's way up on a ridge line in his truck. He's sitting in his truck far, far away. And there's a microphone like, Keith, take off your orange. Take off your orange, damn it. And I didn't, because if I don't move, those antelope deer aren't going to see me.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So there's not much trees there. They just get some beautiful aspens on the creek beds. But I just sat there. I did not move. Or when I did move, I didn't let them catch me moving. So I'd slowly ease my rifle up. And then I'd move their head, I'd freeze. Right, and I'm wearing, orange hat, orange vest, no camo, everything, right?
It's regs in Wyoming, right?
Yeah. And actually in Wyoming you just have to wear a hat, but I had the whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
And so anyway, these deer kept feeding my direction, and I just froze. And they were close to me. I could have jumped up and tackled one, right? And I used to smoke cigars back then. And none of these things have horns, right? So
they're a bunch of
unless one comes out, but none of them have horns. But it was funner than hell. And so their heads down, they're not looking. They're all within 35 feet, right? And I slip a Swisher Sweet cigar out of my pocket. And it took me, when I say attempt, I'd slip it and I'd freeze. And they'd put their hand out to feed. I'd move my hand up to their mouth and they'd look up and I'd freeze. I just let them kept me moving. And they get the cigar in my mouth and their heads are down feeding. And I slip my lighter out and I light the cigar and they all look at me. And I just freeze. I don't even let off the button on the lighter. I wait for them to put their heads down. And anyway, by the time they were done, they were in tackling distance, right? You just don't move. You don't make noise. You don't move. As soon as you start to act or sound creepy, they're gone. Especially like a whitetail. If they pick up on anything out of the ordinary, anything strange, they're gone.
I feel like whitetail are a lot more skittish, especially up here. But
extremely. Yeah.
Do you feel like when you're, let's say in that circumstance, you're hunting these, those were mule deer, right?
Mule deer, yeah.
But you were actually after a speed go, an antelope?
Both.
Oh, you had a tag for both?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Sweet.
I'd have lots of tags.
Right on.
Yeah.
So would you say, because I was talking to this guy one time, and he was saying that even if you are kind of face-to-face with let's say it's a mule deer, and he was comparing it to like when you're with your dog and let's say you kind of bend down and like you're going to grab a toy or something like that, and what you're displaying with your body language tells that dog how to react, and deer are a lot like that. Would you say that's true?
That's
like
absolutely
meaning
true.
if you kind of show I'll give you a really good example. I was hunting elk this last September. And I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but just real condensed version. I let out. I was calling elk. I was using a bugle tube, and I let out a bugle, come around this tree, and there's two huge whitetail bucks staring at me, and they were looking at me like they were confused because they expected a bull elk to walk out, and I just sat there, and for a good minute straight, we just kind of looked at each other. I wasn't totally still. I kind of shifted my leg. And I was looking at them, and they were watching me. They weren't quite sure what to do. They're maybe 30 feet from me. Well, then I realized, okay, I know I'm elk hunting, but that's a big whitetail buck. I need a damn arrow knocked right now. Yeah. So I pulled an arrow out, and as soon as I put that arrow and raised my arm with my bow, that's when they bolted. Well, so I'm always curious about that, like body language with animals.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're acting creepy, they'll pick up on it. Another thing is that side-to-side movement alerts them. Right?
What do you mean side to side? Like with your arm going left to right kind of thing, or
arm or body? If you walk left, you walk right. If your body moves horizontally, they'll freak out and go.
Gotcha.
If you're straight on, they don't know what you're doing. So, for example, if you're stalking something in the open, they're looking at you. You walk in an absolutely straight, perfect line. They don't have the depth perception that predators and stuff do. So, if you're walking a straight line at, for example, caribou, it's really common with caribou. If you're in the open tundra hunting caribou and you want to get close, you walk straight at them. Nice and slow and easy.
Really?
Walk straight at them. They don't know you're coming at them.
So you've done this?
No, but I've seen video stuff. I haven't done it with caribou. I've done it with other animals.
Yeah.
But not the caribou. But that's one of the easy examples you can see. But as soon as you start to walk sideways, those caribou are gone.
Really?
And if I'm doing a deer or a bear or anything else, head straight at them and don't left or right at all. Don't horizontal. Straight at them. They don't know what you're doing. They can't tell you're getting closer. Right?
Yeah.
So I had this bear once, and funny story. So one of my friends from church called and said that a mountain lion chased the neighbor kid, right? Mm-hmm. And this gal and her boyfriend went down to this creek, and just to sit and be boyfriend and girlfriend, I guess. And this young lion came up out of the creek bed and chased him up to the road. And knowing I'm a hunting nut, they called me, and so I grabbed my 1895 Winchester. And went out there.
Lever action?
Oh, yeah. Yep. 30-40 Craig. It's the old Spanish American War carbine. It's what Theodore Roosevelt carried when he was with the Rough Riders.
No, it's a great rifle.
Oh, it was, yeah. And so I go out there, and the tracks are very easy. It was a powdery, dusty trail, and the cougar tracks, lion tracks were very easy to see, And so went down there, got down as close to where I could get, and I started predator calling with a hand call. And this mountain lion was calling back, right? From the other side of the creek. The funny thing about mountain lions, they're more vocal than you think.
Yeah.
And so as I squealed my rabbit call, or actually it was a fawn in distress call, this cougar would mimic me back on the other side of the creek. And it's slowly getting closer, but it's not moving very fast at all. And it finally got so dark I couldn't see through my sights. Like, we're going to have to back off, right? So I kept going back there, and this time I used an electronic caller because the night I ran out there, I just grabbed my stuff and got out there as fast as I could.
Yeah, kind of last minute.
Yep. So I kept trying to use my caller to call this cougar in, and I called a bear in, right? Well, this was 2 weeks before bear season, and it was funny. I called for bears take a long time to come into a predator call. They can take 45 minutes, maybe up to an hour. As soon as you stop calling, they stop coming. They turn around and walk the other direction. But as long as that call is constant, they'll keep slowly moving your direction.
What kind of call are you talking about for a bear?
I use you can use anything you can for a predator. So a fawn in distress, a squealing rabbit call.
Oh, okay.
Any of that kind of stuff. Okay. It's a dinner bell.
So similar to like a coyote call.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now a coyote will come on a full run.
Yeah.
A bear won't. Have you ever seen a bear stalk their prey as a predator?
Mm-hmm.
They walk really slow. They just don't stop. They don't vocalize. Don't do anything. They just slowly walk in a straight line.
And they don't act like they're stalking.
No,
They're just
You have to have your listeners get on YouTube and start watching the videos. Maybe a bear going towards a caribou. Black bear's going to walk very slowly and very calmly. It looks like he wants to be petted, right? Like with the caribou, but he's not. So anyway, so I was predator calling this bear, and I called for about 45 minutes. I turned the caller off, and then at that point in time, I heard a stick break 40 yards away, right? And it sounded like a big human being just stepped on a stick, snap. But it's in thick trees. There's no way. That's one thing that's kind of dangerous about bears, I guess. They sound a lot like a person.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting on a trail, I took a cop-out bear hunt once, and heavy bear-used area, and we split up, we sat. And then after we're done, he comes back and says, "Yeah, do you see a couple guys walking down that trail?" I'm like, "No." I think I heard someone walk down the trail. I'm like, "That wasn't a guy, you idiot. You should have looked over the stump." And we were way remote. There's no trucks. There's no tracks. You heard a bear. I have too. It sounds like a human walking nice and slow. Anyway, so I heard the stick snap, and I freeze. And how a bear can move so silently, I'll never know. But it was like a lot of experience I've had with bear. 15 minutes later, not a sound. The bear appears on the other side of the picture where I didn't expect him to be. Mm-hmm. So I heard this stick snap on my right. 10, 15 minutes later, whatever, the bear appears on my left. And here he is out of nowhere, just sitting there, right? And he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him.
A black bear?
Yep. And so I stand up, and his eyes are kind of big. And he's looking at me, so I shift my weight, and he looks at me like, "Huh?" But I didn't move other than that, right? Mm-hmm. And then finally, I don't know what to do. This bear's, I don't know, 30 yards. And finally, I'm just like, I had enough of it. I can't shoot him because it's not bear season. And so I'm like, "Hey, big boy." Nothing scares game like the human voice.
Good looking?
Yeah, nothing scares game like the human voice. So as soon as he heard me talk, "Hey there, big boy," he flipped ends and he galloped off like a Mustang. Hilarious. But I wasn't wearing any camo. Yeah. I didn't let him catch me moving, and so that was a pretty cool experience.
What about scent? You just watching your thermals, your wind, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of things we can't control, and you just try to keep the wind right. More important to me than wind is noise and movement.
So I'm asking these questions because I'm intrigued. I haven't actively
I honestly think
bear hunted a lot.
I actually think I can stink to high heaven and hunt anything on this earth.
I agree with that. I agree. I don't use scent control products.
Yeah.
You know, it's just and a lot of hunters they make that mistake, especially in the West. You know, we're not hunting the flat country of the Midwest or something where you can watch those prevailing winds. So it's always interesting to me, but.
I know a couple guys. They were hunting moose in Canada, and a grizzly bear was raiding their hanging meat, right?
Uh-huh.
And they had enough. One of them had a tag, and so they sat up trying to ambush this grizzly bear. And kind of odd, their cover. Part of the things they planned was they covered themselves in human piss, food smells, body odor. They didn't shower.
Hunters?
Yeah, human body odor, piss. They wanted to stink.
Yeah.
And they just sat real still and real quiet. And I don't really get it. That comforted the bear. The bear thought that was, I don't know. But they intentionally did that. I think animals are more curious and less wary in that way, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Versus noise and movement.
And smelling Old Spice, deodorant or something. Yeah. You know, so there's a difference there.
There's an old thing they used to do back in the Old West called flagging for antelope. You ever heard about that? Yeah,
no.
It's a real thing. It can also work on deer sometimes, too. What they did in the Old West days is you take a little white flag, right? And I've done this before with antelope, and I used a handkerchief, like a man's handkerchief, like blows his nose kind of thing. And I used a gun cleaning rod. And I sat up on top of the hill and saw some antelope. And I'm lying down on my belly, and I hold this little flag up, and the antelope sees that white flag waving in the wind, and they'll come to it.
And so you're moving it kind of back and forth, or
the wind's blowing it.
Oh,
I'm not waving it like that, but I'm just holding it still, letting the wind blow it. And they see that white flag blowing in the wind, and I don't know if they think it's an antelope rear end or what thing it is, but they actually come to a white flag.
No shit.
Some deer will do that too.
Okay, I'm going to try that.
So I think the same thing kind of goes with scent. That it's they're more curious than you think. Now, you've probably seen deer come up and smell urine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're a hunter, you take a leak, you climb back in your tree, and then here's a deer going over smelling your pee spot. You know what I'm saying? And I think they're more curious than we think about that. But movement and sound, your game's up.
Yeah. They don't like that. So getting back to bear hunting.
Yeah.
Because I'm a terrible bear hunter. I've never gotten a bear. I haven't tried real hard.
You've never gotten a bear?
No, never.
Oh.
I've never really tried. I've just never. It's never been. It's just never been my thing. But I've
only baited once. It's all spot and stock or predator calling. But I've only baited once.
Because I wanted to ask you because and you're bear hunting in North Idaho, right?
Yeah.
I look at this. You're talking about you do spot and stock, and what's hard is how thick and brushy it is here. What are you looking for in terrain to actually do these spot and stocks?
Remote. You want to get away from people, as far away from a road as you can.
Do you use like Onyx maps or base maps or something like that?
No, that didn't exist when I started.
You just haven't picked it up or anything?
Yeah. When I've gone to Wyoming, I've used Onyx because the cool thing about that is we went antelope hunting last year, and we're hunting the high BLM land. And there's very few pieces far in between. And it was the last day. I took some chef buddies out mine antelope hunting for the first time ever. Neither one of them have killed anything in like 10 years. They tried to deer hunt here locally in Idaho and haven't killed anything in years. I'll take you out. We'll get some stuff. There's more antelope than cattle out there, And I got their tags filled first. And I had my tag still yet to fill, and I didn't care. I wanted to take them guys out and have them get something. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's like, let's take the long way around this BLM land back to the freeway, and if I see something, great. If I don't, I don't. And somehow we set the Onyx up so that it'd ping when we're crossing the BLM land, and we're driving. And then my buddy Tony, he says, "You guys cuss in your show?"
Yeah, we cuss.
He says.
You didn't listen to my last episode.
He's, oh shit, there's a couple right there. And as soon as that words come out of his mouth, the Onyx goes ping. I'm like, whoa, wait, what? And look on Onyx, there's a little sliver, about a quarter-mile square of BLM land in the middle of this guy's ranch. And I'll be dadgummed if those antelope aren't standing in that little orange, yellow square.
Well, I'm curious, what is this ping? Onyx will do a ping if you hit public land all of a sudden?
It did.
You set that up?
It did. Or I'm hearing things, but
shit, I'm out of the loop, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so, sure as shit, these antelope are standing right there. I had my tag to fill. It's like, ooh. And these guys had a bit of a challenging hunt, never hunting antelope before. There was a lot of missed opportunities, to put it lightly. I won't share stories about them. But so I got out, and at this time I'm shooting a .300 Winchester short mag. It's the Browning X Bolt with a Duratouch stock. That gun is like holding hands with Claudia Schiffer wearing leather gloves. It is just sexy, right?
Yeah.
And so I whip my gun out and throw down this antelope. Thing just knocks over right dead on the spot, anchored. They're like, whoa, the best shooting they'd seen all week.
That's awesome.
The only shot I took and the best shooting they'd seen all week, I'll just say that. But that was pretty cool.
You practice a lot.
Yeah, if I've never lost an animal. I've never missed, and
that's a lot more than I can say. I've missed a lot.
It's practice. I'm not just sandbag punching paper. I'm trying to hold in natural angles. So I'm using my elbows on the table. I use the a side wall as like a tree where you cup your hands in the tree, and you shoot. And if you really practice well, you can't miss,
Interesting.
And I finally switched to scopes when I was about 38, 40 years old. And hunted with all antiques we talked about last week.
Yeah.
I'm probably the only guy I've ever met who's killed an antelope with a Springfield Trapdoor 1873 Cavalry carbine. In the Powder River country.
No way, you did. So, because did we talk about this last
time? I thought
time?
we did. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did. Because I killed that wild boar with a Civil War musket, the 42
right.
Springfield smoothbore.
Yeah.
69 caliber on that damn thing.
That's
I want to
awesome.
know about the Sharps.
Oh, it's not a Sharps. It's a Springfield Trapdoor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Springfield.
Yep. So it's the same gun that Custer had at Little Bighorn. Matter of fact, when we drove through this hunt, we stopped the Bighorn, and they had a mannequin wearing a cavalry officer's uniform, and he had a Springfield Trapdoor strapped around. They had a saddle ring on it. It's a shorter version of the Trapdoor, and they have a thick leather strap to go over the shoulder. And that so if it falls out of the sheath, the horse is still around his shoulders, And the one they had in the museum was a piece of crap compared to the mint beauty I had sitting in the back of my car. And anyway, I fired a lot. A 4570, and I used to get ammo made by PMC, and they kind of replicate the Old West 4570 ammo. Because you want to be careful in the gun that old not to shoot anything hot or too modern, But the bullets lob a bit, so you got to practice with it a lot. And it has a ladder sight. You can go out to 1,400 yards on the ladder sight.
Oh, really?
Believe it or not.
Wow.
And now your gun's pointed towards the sky when you take that shot, but you can drop it right in the breadbasket. But, so it's sun up. And, of course, all my hunting buddies, they got scoped rifles, camouflage head to toe. I'm wearing a cowboy hat. And I got my trapdoor, but I didn't move. I knew where the antelope were coming from. We had, done preseason scouting. And they come up over this ridge, over this little butte. Over the right side. I expected them that morning. So I just sat and I didn't move. Sure enough, false dawn. Here they are. The silhouettes are coming over this ridge line. And I waited. I got this antelope. He was about 80 yards, I think. And just when it was probably barely legal light, I let one fly and knocked this puppy down. And probably the first antelope killed in 100 years with a 1873 Springfield Trapdoor 4570. But I got him and with a Cherry Cavalry rifle. That was pretty cool.
At some point, I'm gonna have to come over and see your gun collection. Like if you've got a thing for antique historic rifles, especially those military grade ones, I get pretty excited about them.
Yeah, I do. A couple of my favorites. I have one. It's a one of a kind. It's a Brooks double rifle, and it's chambered in 4570, but you can shoot hot plus P powder in it, right? So it's made by a gunmaker by the name of Brooks from the East Coast. He died probably 5 years ago, I think, and it's the only one I've ever seen. It's a side-by-side double-barrel rifle. The stock is exhibition grade bird's eye. Exhibition grade. The stock is glorious. All the accoutrements for the rifle are made out of carved buffalo horn. So the shoulder cap is carved buffalo horn. The forearm cap. It breaks open with an underlever. So there's an underlever under the rifle. That's what breaks open the action. And the underlever is carved buffalo horn.
Sweet.
And it's got double triggers, one for left barrel, one for right barrel, and has a fancy ornate curly cued hand carved buffalo trigger guard on it. And that's pretty sweet, but that's one of my favorites. And I shoot them all. There's only one gun I haven't shot, and I'll tell you that story if we have time. But I have 375 H&H. I got probably 5 or 6 double rifles, antiques, military stuff, small Winchesters, 30-40 Craigs, that kind of thing. And M1 Garand I've hunted a lot with.
Yeah, I have too.
Yeah.
That's a great rifle.
That's probably the best rifle ever made.
I bet you I'm the only guy that's duck hunted with an M1 Garand. And I'm not kidding. Me and my buddy did that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into. There wasn't much meat left, but
yeah.
But we made it happen.
I got an African eland with an M1 Grand.
Did you really?
Yeah. It was on a hunting ranch here in the U.S. and kind of a cool story. So, they told me they had an eland, and that's what I was after. Big bull eland. Only had one. And they told me, hike to the high part of this ranch, the high point of this ranch, the very far corner. That's kind of where this guy likes to hang out at. And so it was 5-mile hike getting up there, and all on foot. And I'm sitting there, and me and my buddy split. This is the same football player guy that I was with. Anyway, we split up, and then I hear just this weird, hollow, ethereal sound coming from nowhere that sounded like horse hooves on cobblestone. I'm sitting there in the quiet on top of this high point on a rock, and I heard this. And I'm like, what is that? And you probably caught my word I mouthed and didn't say.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is that? And you hear this hollow, ethereal phantom. What the hell? And then this thing appears. Now, an African eland is probably the 4th largest land animal on Earth. They're gigantic. And they have black curly Q horns, really thick. They have a black and white painted clown face. They got a big hump on their back. They got tiger stripes going down their back. They got a tail like a lion. And they're huge.
Where were you at?
I was at a ranch in Oregon. Central Oregon, right? And I'm like, what the heck is that? And it doesn't see me. And when you look at a big animal like that that's leggy, each stride, even though they're walking casually, is like 6 feet, right? So step 6 feet, step 12, step 18, step 24. And so I get behind some trees, and I'm a little fat guy with my short legs trying to get after this thing. And it just disappeared. But I know where it's going, so I can hear that. By the way, you know what that sound is? That sound is what a bull eland makes to show all the other bull elands in the area that he's the top dog.
No kidding.
He's clicking tendons in his chest. It's like how a gorilla beats his chest.
It's pretty loud, huh?
Oh, yeah. It echoes.
Interesting.
And as he's walking, moving his front legs like this, he's clicking his tendons like a gorilla beating his chest.
And he's
I'm the
just,
man.
Yeah.
Look at me, ladies.
Watch out, bitches. I'm coming.
That's right. All the boys better clear out because I'm the king around here. That's what he's doing. It's a male dominance thing.
Interesting.
It's the weirdest thing in the world. And so I finally catch up with this guy, and it had an M1 Grand. I'm loaded with 180 grain federal nozzle partitions. And because African game is big, and I pop him, and I just drop him on the spot like sack potatoes. I was floored. He's flipping huge. And I'm using a 30-06, right?
Yeah.
Nozzle partition, which, of course, the front mushrooms, the back is like a solid. And I got him down, and I take one insurance shot, right? And I'm walking up to him, and I'm maybe 20 feet from this eland.
Was this open sights or?
Open sights.
Open sights, okay.
My M1 Grand is a Springfield 1942 or 1943 Springfield Armory, original U.S. military issue, everything original.
Yeah, I want to see this thing.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool. And I'm getting up to this thing. My idiot buddy with a plastic scope gun takes a shot on a hillside, and hits this thing behind the shoulder, and his bullet puts like a 6-inch gash in the hide. And I'm like, what are you doing? This thing's down. He's like, oh, I was helping finish it off for you. I'm like, it's down, dude. What are you doing? Well, the interesting thing about that is that they told me that they had one before, and some guy was hunting an eland, and he had a 300 Win Mag, right? And this guy was out hunting, saw the eland, shot it, it ran off, kept on hunting. Later that night, saw it again, shot it, it ran off. Next day, he found it, shot it, it ran off, and he finally gave up. And he went back to the cabin and just was inconsolable, right? And
was he hitting it or missing?
He was hitting it
with a 300 Win Mag.
Yeah, this thing would run off.
Interesting.
And he got to the point where this guy was so depressed. Remember we talked about hunting is so up and down.
Yeah, the highs and lows.
Euphoric highs, deep depression. This guy had deep depression so bad he wouldn't leave the cabin. And so the guy who owns the ranch says, I can't let this thing wounded get away. If this guy wounded, he's going to have to pay for it, and pay the trophy fees on it. So all he had at the cabin, this ranch head guy, was an SKS with full metal jacket. So he goes up and finds this thing.
Going.
Yeah, he goes and finds this thing and drills it and puts it down, right? Goes back to the cabin, hey, I got your eland down, kind of thing. Well, what they found when they skinned it is that this guy had several shots from a 300 Win Mag that didn't penetrate the hide. They hit in the right spot. They mushroomed, didn't penetrate. And so the hide on that eland, no kidding, was about an inch thick.
Whoa.
An inch thick, right? So when I used my nozzle partition, that solid punched right through it. Now, I didn't have an exit wound on the other side, but my bullet was lodged in the far hide.
God, that's crazy.
But, so for big game, bears that have big bones, I always go for nozzle partition. A soft point, to break up mushroom, not do the job.
Oh, yeah, we keep going down these rabbit holes. We're supposed to be talking about bear hunting, man.
Bear hunting, yeah. So what we talked about last time, a story I wrote called My Greatest Day. And, some of the best hunting memories and experiences I had weren't going out and shooting my own trophy animal like that. It was just the adventure of the thing, So I had a buddy. He was a butcher at Fred Meyer, and he'd never gotten a bear before. And opening day of bear season, I went to one mountain, he went to another. We split up. I didn't see anything. His name was Larry, and then Larry calls me and says, "I got a bear down. I was hoping you could come help me pack it out." So I'm like, "Sweet." So I hop in my Jeep. I'm flying down these logging roads. I don't know how I didn't die. You hit that washboard on the corners,
Yeah.
I'm going way too fast, but I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been waiting all year for opening day, right? And so I go flying there, and I find Larry. I'm like, "Hey, congratulations. Where's it at?" And Larry says, "I don't know."
Is this fall or spring bear?
This fall.
Fall bear?
We didn't have a spring season back then. And anyway, so where's the bear? He's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "I thought you wanted me to help you pack it out. What do you mean you don't know?" He's like, "I don't know. It stepped upon this log and I shot it." "Where'd it go?" "I don't know." Like, oh, man, really? So that day I was hunting with the 1898 Craig carbine. It has the side door.
Yep.
Loads 4 rounds on a rotary magazine. Beautiful gun. And it had a 45 long Colt Ruger Vaquero in a leather flap holster. And I said, "Okay, show me the log where he was." He pointed. Went down, there's clear blood, on there. And so I started trailing this thing, and I found a couple drops here and there, a couple drops there, and the trail petered out. And Larry didn't follow me. He's still up there, at the edge of the road where he shot this thing at, right? And so I'm looking for this thing by myself, and I'm doing like my whole best Indian tracker thing, like Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah.
Right? And I see a foot depression on a piece of moss, and I follow that. And I ran out of stuff. And at one point, I had nothing to go on, right? And I noticed going down this hill was I don't know my grass well, but it looked like crabgrass.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a piece of crabgrass with a single bent one. One of these pieces of grass was bent. Like I think it went this way. And I followed that way. I found a little bit more blood. And the farther I'm going down this hill, the more Larry is starting to get his courage back, his manhood, and start to follow me, right? And I get down this hill. I'm being super quiet, and I'm using my ears. I'm listening so hard. I'm moving so quiet. I'm using my eyes and tracking this thing like Last Mohicans. And then Larry's kind of following me down a bit, and there's a tree between us, and it was so steep. It was like if we were 8 feet apart from each other, Jim, your feet would be my eye level. That's how steep this thing was. And so I look back to talk to Larry, and I just noticed something between us that's unnatural and doesn't belong. And lots of times when you bear hunt, or even when you deer hunt, you're looking for something out of place, and you might not know what it is, but something's out of place. And it might be an ear, a mule deer's ear.
Mm-hmm.
It might be the whitetail's knee, something, right?
Yeah.
And so when I look back to talk to Larry, there's something between us that's blacker than night. It's blacker to exist in nature. There's a shadow, a dark spot that is too pitch black to be natural. And it's at the base of this tree, and by golly, it's the bear. And the bear is right between us. And it's the first thing I say to Larry is, don't shoot, man, don't shoot, because the bear is right between us.
Yeah.
He's like, what? And this bear he could probably reach out and touch it. It was that close. Don't shoot, back up. The bear is right between us. And I kind of went off to the side, and I took my gun and leaned in there nice and quiet, and I poked the bear in the eye, and its eye didn't move. It was stone dead.
Oh, jeez.
And that just was it wasn't my bear, it wasn't my tag, but that was one of the coolest experiences, to go off on my own, like a ninja, super quiet, and stalk this wounded bear. And nothing was going to stop me. I would trail this bear to the end of time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not going to scare me. If it charges me, I'm not running. I'm going to find this bear. I'm absolutely determined. And then there's no way to get up that hill. And we saw a logging road, a couple miles down. And So like, well, I'm just going to flip this thing end over end all the way down this big hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Larry wouldn't let me gut it because he wanted the taxidermist to do it.
Oh, that's right. You were telling me about that. That's like, this one.
And I flipped it end over. I grabbed his hindquarters, flip it, end over end, and go down the hill a couple tumbles and stop. Pig was front end, flip it as hard as I could, do a cartwheel or two, and stop.
And this is public land, North Idaho.
Public land, yeah. And I'm getting maybe 6 feet of flip, right, if that. Finally, I'm like, Larry, I'm gutting this thing. I can skin this thing right here in the field. I'm good at skinning, And they finally let me gut it. It was so much easier to flip down the hill.
Yeah.
And that was one of my coolest memories. I got a few good bear ones. Another one is I was thinking about is my football buddy, and we went up bear hunting. This is in North Bend, Washington this time, and we split up. A closed private road we had access to, and I heard a bear walk down the trail. Sounds like a human. It wasn't human. My buddy actually got a shot at it, right? And the bear ran off in the thick stuff. And I'm like, well, so my buddy, we have a nickname for him, and we call him the butt shooter. Right?
The butt shooter?
The butt shooter. So when you go to the range with this guy, he can drive tacks. At the time, I was only open sights. He could outshoot me with his scope gun. He could drive tacks. But you get this guy in the field, he pulls all the shots. So if you had an elk, and the elk's nose is to the left, and his rear is to the right, and a standing broadside, he'll aim for the front shoulder and shoot it in the butt. Every time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a butt shooter. Huh. And so he shot this bear and lost it. And it's like, well, okay. We looked around for it. It obviously headed for the thick stuff. I said, let's go back to the truck, load up on some flashlights and batteries, and look for this thing. And he shot it, I don't know, this was fall season, 8 o'clock, something like that. He didn't have a whole lot of light. And we searched for that bear, or at least I did, all night long with a flashlight. And finally found the bear at sunup, right during the false dawn. And it was halfway up this mountain. It was maybe 500 yards away, which takes a long time to circle and track and circle and track in the dark. And we finally found this bear. It was still steaming from its mouth. So this bear, we slowly pushed it and pushed on it long until it just expired right at sunup.
Wow.
And we skinned it in the spot. He went back to the truck. We got some pack frames, packed it out. And that pack out about darn near killed me, But
they almost always darn near kill me. So
yeah, but it's just the adventure.
It is awesome. The adventure of it. I love it. Especially you keep talking. You're kind of telling. Especially I think it was Larry you were telling. Taking out new hunters. Do you like doing that?
Oh yeah, love it.
Me too.
Yeah,
it's like it's one of my favorite things. It's even though it can be frustrating sometimes. It's one of my favorite things. It's somebody that's never been hunting and taking them out for the first time.
Yeah.
And successful or not, it's one of my peak moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what I do first, I take them shooting a lot, right? And because kids like to shoot a lot, and hunting caliber centerfire stuff is very expensive. So I have a whole collection of Mausers, Mosin Nagants, things like that that you can buy a lot of surplus ammo for, right? And how I first started is we go out shooting, we have fun. We bring milk jugs, fill them with water. We bring balloons, and as many things as we can. And we punch paper, and then we'll have a competition. So we'll put a couple milk jugs filled with water out there, and each got a shot.
Yeah.
And so, Steven, you get a shot. Your brother Josh gets a shot. If you don't hit that milk jug, I'm taking it out. You can rest assured on that. And we would just have a blast, getting ready for hunting season.
Yeah.
Then take them out in an area that has, pretty high success, lots of game, know how to shoot. The thrill is fascinating. I remember one of my daughter's first antelope she got. So she used to shoot a 243 with a scope on it. I think it was a Mossberg 243. And, of course, I take my kids shooting all the time. And we had this antelope. And I'm going to guess, it was a long time ago, 260 yards. Right?
Yeah.
And she had a doe tag, because doe tags in Wyoming are really cheap. Even if you're out of state or non-resident, they're really, really cheap.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, cheap.
I've never looked at doe tags.
Well, me and you in October, we'll go have some fun.
Let's do it.
So here's this doe, and there's this buck, and he's just humping the crap out of her. We're on a fence line. And there's a buck mounted this thing, and he's just going to town. And I'm like, well, let's just wait. Let him finish his business. He did, and got off her, and the doe's just standing there looking a little bit bewildered. We go, okay, Ellie, take your shot. Boom, misses. The shot goes just off the antelope's nose and hits the powder. And the antelope just turns her head and looks at where the shot hit the ground. pretty good, Ellie. Dang, that's a far shot. Do it again. Boom, and the shot's just under the belly. It just skimmed the belly. Antelope's luring out, stands there looking. Oh, it was so close. Do it again. And like me, my daughter's never missed, so this is kind of traumatic. She just took 2 shots and missed this thing, but by golly, Jim, they were close. She missed that thing by a razor.
How old is your daughter at this point?
She was 12.
12. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Do it again, Ellie. Boom, and you hear that beautiful sound. I'm not blessed to hear every time because I generally tend to stalk and be close, but you hear that great thwack.
Yep. Thwack.
Hit this thing right in the heart, and this antelope just dumped it on the spot.
Nice.
And Ellie started crying. And of course, she's a 12-year-old girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's wearing a skirt. She's wearing a long white sweater. She's wearing a skirt. And she had her orange vest on, but, she's wearing her church clothes kind of thing.
Jeez.
And like, Ellie, you okay? What's wrong? I was like, oh, that was just so exciting. It was just wonderful. I can't believe I got one, Daddy. And there's just nothing like it.
I love it. Yeah.
And another one of my best memories, I had these kids I was taking out, 2 brothers, Josh and Steven, and we're out antelope hunting. And we see this antelope in this little valley, and there's some mesa ridges around. I'm like, okay, Steven, there's a buck. I'm going to stay here with my binos and just watch this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You go around the sides of this rim, out of sight, and we got our walkie-talkies. I can walk you into this thing, right? And so Steven goes around. It's pretty far out there. I see him walking. I'm like, Steven, put your head down. Because I can see the antelope, but I can see Steven, and they should be able to see each other, but they can't.
Mm-hmm.
There's sagebrush or whatever I can't see, but they can't see each other, but they're getting really close. And they're actually moving towards each other. And by golly, if they don't see each other soon, they're going to collide because they're 60 yards apart and heading in each other's direction. And I'm sitting there taking this whole thing in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Steven, get down, get ready, get down. He's like, I can't see it. Dude, it's walking. You guys are walking right into each other. And then finally, I saw him see it. And his head goes up and head goes down, and he jumps on a knee real quick, and I saw him see the antelope. And the antelope didn't really see him. And then the antelope popped his head up where you could see it above a piece of sagebrush. He shot it right in the noggin and blew its brain straight out,
Jeez.
But that was just so much fun, so exciting.
How do you cook antelope?
So antelope is a very interesting game species as far as cooking and prep. A lot of people don't eat it. I think it's disgusting, especially the locals.
See, I've had really good antelope, and I've had terrible antelope.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah, tell me.
You ever find it funny, Jim, on a side note, how the locals of any game population don't respect much their own game population?
Mm-hmm.
So, some people here say, the whitetails, there's no good. That's, you don't want to go out.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. It's how do you not like a whitetail?
Yeah,
I hear that a lot around here.
And you go to Wyoming, they're like these prairie goats. Those are nasty kind of stuff. Right? But you get me, it's like flaming on, A lot of local people don't respect their own game. I don't know why. But anyway, so with antelope, so if you go hunting in Wyoming, you don't know if it's going to be 95 degrees or snowing sideways. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And I was there once several years ago. It was a really hot day, like one of those 90-degree days. And I was going to have to use a local butcher because I was hunting in Wyoming. I was going back to Nebraska to visit my folks, then come back and fill one last Wyoming tag and then come home. So I didn't have time to pack it in a local butcher to process. I'd be gone for a week and a half, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be dragging my meat around with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I go to this butcher shop in Gillette, Wyoming, and hot day, hot, dusty, 90-degree day, and the butcher shop is in the back of a house, and his driveway is lined with antelope carcasses stacked like cordwood. Like if you go to Ireland and they make like a stone fenced line at the edge of their farms, that's what it's like. They're stacked up on top of each other. All of them have their hair on. They're gutted, hair, the head, they're still pretty much whole, you know. All day in the hot sun. There was one I saw, and its ribs were absolutely black, like they dragged this thing with a quad for 20 miles, right?
And what, are they just lined up to get butchered?
Yeah.
And they're leaving them out in the sun?
Not even skinned.
Not even skinned?
Sit in the sun all day. Some of these things were shot at sunup, you know.
Oh, jeez.
And here it is, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., whatever it is, and there are all these unskinned antelopes sitting there. I've known guys who've gone hunting for antelope, and they shoot one, and they gut it and throw it in their truck, then they go fishing in Montana on the way home, right? And they bring it home, and it's not even skinned yet. So what I do is I have a mobile butcher cart I bring, right? So we built a tripod out of stainless steel poles, and the tripod is maybe 8 feet tall, and it's got a gambrel. Is it Gimbrel or Gambrel? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm not totally. Are you talking about the swivel thing?
No, the coat hanger looking thing you put between their knees. to string them up with.
Oh yeah. I have like 3 of those. I don't even know what they're called. I call it a game hanger.
Yeah, game hanger. So we rig these things together out of stainless steel poles and in a tripod, and we have a game hanger.
Yeah. I'm going to trademark that name.
Yeah.
No.
And so, like, when I used to take my Jeep Wrangler, I used to pull a little flatbed, and the flatbed got those big, huge white coolers from Costco.
Uh-huh.
And you can fit 2 antelope in each cooler. And so you skin them below the last rib. You cut down the rib and you split the backbone. I never use an axe or a saw, by the way. I use my knife.
Yeah.
I can skin and debone anything with a knife. You just go around the joint, around the spine, then pop it off.
Sure.
Pop the legs off with a knife. Pop the head off with a knife. And so when you get one down, we skin it and pack the meat in ice right there on the spot. So we bring the cooler. We already have block ice in the cooler. Bring the tripod, and right there in the field from it's down, we gut it, string it up, skin it, pack in ice, and it's absolutely wonderful. But I can't really think of an animal I've seen more field abused than an antelope.
Yeah. So and that, you think that's why a lot of people don't like the taste of antelope, or?
I was kind of thinking about game meat and cooking and stuff today, and antelope has a distinctive flavor, distinctive from anything else, right? But if the field care is good and fast and cold, it is absolutely delicious. And I think if someone ate game meat all the time and then they went and had cow, you'd probably think cow's a little off. It tastes like pineapple if someone's used to eating wild game.
Yeah. Especially like a high hormone type. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So your game is different, and I'm not a kind of guy who's going to try to pretend my deer is beef or pretend my bear is beef. The bear is something. Antelope is something. And that's kind of thing about the cooking segment we're going to talk about, but it's like the childhood prank where you get some kid who likes vanilla. Oh, if you love vanilla, try this straight vanilla out of my cupboard. And you take the little bottle of vanilla out of the spice rack, and you pour a little straight vanilla in the cap, you give it to the kid to drink. It is horrifyingly disgusting. Yeah. Straight vanilla. But if you mix vanilla with cream, it's absolutely delicious. Well, the same kind of thing I think with game meat, that certain flavors. First, I'm just a salt and pepper kind of guy. My hunting friends laugh that you get a moose or get whatever, the kids can put salt and pepper on it and put it on the grill. Yeah. Hell yeah, I will.
It's good.
Yeah. But I think like with antelope, and I have a book called Culinary Artistry, and it was part of one of the study things of a culinary arts program. And this book, Culinary Artistry, the biggest benefit this book has, it talks about flavor pairings and matches made in heaven. So, for example, what are some things, Jim, that you think go with deer? Seasonings, spices, ingredients. What goes with deer meat? Venison.
Salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper is not a thing. I'm talking herbs.
Oh, herbs.
Vegetables, fruit. What goes with deer?
You usually do. See, you're asking. I shoot the deer. My wife is the cook.
Okay. So don't tell me she puts in spaghetti sauce. So
we have done that, but no, my wife makes. She's an excellent venison cook, and so I don't know. We should give her a call.
We should give her a call.
She'd know.
Here's some things that go with deer, and maybe you could ask me true or false. Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Let's do true or false.
Deer meat. So I think of deer meat as vanilla, right? Let's say you don't like straight up vanilla, but vanilla can be absolutely delicious. Okay. It goes with deer. Chocolate.
Yes.
It does. Chocolate goes with venison. Black cherries.
No.
Yes, black cherries.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, according to my book, Culinary Artistry, black cherries and venison is a match made in heaven.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Barbecue sauce.
No.
Yeah. If you put barbecue sauce in my game meat, I'll shoot you.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Mint.
Yes.
And certain things like that. So plums, cherries, red wine, those things go with venison. So you take the flavor of venison and you add something to it to make it absolutely extraordinary.
What about huckleberries with venison? Because my wife makes this huckleberry sauce, and it's really good.
It wasn't in my book. I would say probably depending how you do it.
Okay.
Yeah, because huckleberry would be close to a black cherry kind of thing. And
that's what I was thinking when you said black cherry.
Juniper berries.
It's.
But the huckleberry has a very distinct flavor too. So there's certain matches flavor pairings that are enemies, right? And I was sturgeon fishing once, and I try to stay kind of low carb as much as I can, kind of keto low carb. I just always been that way. And so in my lunch, I packed Braunschweiger, which liver pate, Braunschweiger, and Swiss cheese. And it's rather sturgeon fishing, and we're just killing the fish. We're just hauling them in left and right. It's on the Columbia River in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
It's about lunchtime, so I get out my little lunch box, and I take out a piece of Swiss cheese, and I spoon on some Braunschweiger in it, and I take a bite, and I started gagging. I like Swiss cheese. I like Braunschweiger. Together, total gag reflex. There's something seriously wrong with that Swiss cheese.
Super interesting. Yeah. I like this.
So there's certain flavor enemies, but certain flavor that brings you together. One of the interesting reasons I bring this up, and I hate to say this, but you know what goes really, really good with antelope? Let's say you're going to make a burger. Antelope burgers on the grill, right?
Okay.
You know what works really, really, really well with antelope?
What?
I hate to say this, Heinz 57.
Okay, so you're mixing it in like a ground and then making the patty. Heinz 57 is already in there, and then cooking it.
Yeah. Now I'm not talking bury it or cover it. I don't want to hide the flavor of my antelope. But if you add a little bit of Heinz 57, it marries beautifully to the antelope flavor.
Uh-huh.
Let's say you don't like the gaminess musk of the antelope. You put some Heinz 57 in it, you're going to love that gaminess musk that brings out the Heinz 57. A duck is another interesting one. So I had a friend, and he was an avid duck hunter, and we talked about the story last week.
Yep.
And he said, Keith, I love to duck hunt, but I'd love it a lot more if I could stand to eat the stuff. And I'm like, seriously? Stand to eat the stuff? I had a farm we lived on for 25 years, and I had a couple ponds on it. And every day before the Thanksgiving meal, I'd get out my old Riverside shotgun. I told you I had antique guns. My Riverside shotgun, a 12 gauge side by side, and has external hammers on it. Right, fun and heck to hunt with. And so I'd go hunt for appetizers before Thanksgiving. And I don't know the Thanksgiving meal, but I have some time earlier in the day, and I'd go out and pop a few ducks and breast them out. And then how I make duck is cut the breast meat into equal size cubes. They have to be uniform. So if it's not uniform, they'll cook at different speeds. Uh-huh. You'll have some that are overcooked and some undercooked. So you want them all uniform size. They all cook the same in the same amount of time. And I'd put in 1 part water, 1 part red wine vinegar, and 1 part olive oil, and then season them with a little black pepper and Krinko's Greek seasoning. So if your listeners out there like to eat game meat, Krinko's Greek seasoning is going to be your ace in the hole. They sell it at Walmart. They sell it at Super One. They sell it at Yolks. Krinko's Greek seasoning. It's with the spices and baking stuff, and it comes in a little yellowish kind of can.
I think I know what you're talking about. Is it with a K?
It's pure magic.
Krinko?
Krinko's with a K, right?
Gotcha.
And a little bit of that on my duck, and then you saute it so it's just medium rare at the most, right?
Uh-huh.
It is like filet mignon. It is succulent, soft, tender, delicious, amazing.
I'm gonna try that.
And that red wine vinegar gets your juices flowing. It gets it gets you start to salivate a little bit.
Sure.
And you get the smooth olive oil, and you get the rich duck meat, and you get the seasoning. It's absolutely beautiful. So I talked to my friend. His name is Brian. And he said, I'd like it, to duck hunt better if I could stand to eat the stuff. And of course, I'm just thinking to myself, you crazy, I'm like, well, how do you cook it? And he says, my wife makes into a soup. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, your wife boils duck meat and turns into a soup? Oh my gosh, that's got to be the most livery, disgusting thing I've ever had.
That's why he doesn't like it.
Yeah, and I said, you have some duck meat? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, start thawing it. I'll be right over. And I go over, and his daughters detested duck meat. His wife couldn't stand it. The daughters absolutely hated it. And he defrosted some, and I did my usual, And I'm like, okay. And I cut it into cubes, and I said, okay, try this. And the dog's like, oh my gosh, that's delicious. And Brian loved it. The kids went nuts. The kids mounted it all down, right? Uh-huh. The wife tried it, and she was a little bit more type A. It's like, oh, yeah, I like it, but I just wish it was a little bit more done. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. If I cook this thing medium well, it's going to taste like liver. You'll never see duck on a menu or restaurant anywhere that's not anywhere more than medium rare.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's absolutely delicious. But, things that go with duck are like cognac goes with duck. Things like that. And
I'm super intrigued with what you said about how people try to treat venison or these other game meats, whether it's antelope, bear, whatever, like beef.
Right.
Can you expand on that a little bit in terms of cooking? Because I've been guilty of that, so it struck me with that one.
Well, they have different properties. One, you have to salt game meat, like you don't have to salt beef. Uh-huh. Right. And two, game meat isn't marbled like a domestic cow, right? Uh-huh. So, if you shoot a really, really fat lard-ass bear, right, his meat is going to be pure lean, right? Because the fat isn't in the meat. So when you skin a bear out, a big fat one, he's got his lean muscle mass, right?
Uh-huh.
And then a big, huge, thick layer of blubber.
Yep.
And we filled a couple 5-gallon buckets with bear blubber on a single bear, right? But the blubber is on the outside of the meat, not marbled on the inside, right? So they're super lean. So you got to cook them different. Generally, if they're thick cuts, you cook them at a lower temperature because they'll get dry. You know, if you take a bear steak and throw it in a frying pan, it'll stick to the pan. That's how lean it is. Just the meat alone, you know, because the bear is separate from the meat. And so you got to handle these things differently in different temperatures. You generally don't want to tend to overcook game meat because they can get a little bit displeasurable. And talking about flavor pairings again, so I did one. I used to give out cheesecake on Thanksgiving. Stop at my friend's house, drop off cheesecake, and so I was playing with my book, Culinary Artistry, and I want to make a New York cheesecake, which they put flour. It's thicker and heavier, but it's got a richer flavor to it. And I thought, well, on this cheesecake, I don't like pumpkin, right?
Yeah, I don't either.
You know, you get a mouthful of pumpkin, yuck.
Yeah.
And don't even try with the pumpkin spice.
It's nasty, and everybody loves it at Thanksgiving.
And don't even go with the pumpkin spice. I'm not going to do it. But what I read is that what goes with pumpkin, because I had some, and I want to do something for Thanksgiving. I'm not a pumpkin fan myself. It goes with pumpkin. So I'm flipping through my book. Pumpkin goes with French vanilla. Didn't know that, did you?
Okay. No, I didn't know that.
Pumpkin and French vanilla is a match made in heaven, according to Culinary Artistry. Pumpkin and chocolate is a match made in heaven.
Okay.
And so I made this New York cheesecake with pumpkin, French vanilla, and chocolate. And I put a chocolate covering on it and topped it with caramel and those little round French cookies, you know.
Uh-huh.
It was absolutely spectacular. And,
really?
You wouldn't think those things would go together. And I concocted this just by connecting the dots in my Culinary Artistry book.
Uh-huh.
This is a match made in heaven with that. That's a match made in heaven with that. But even for a guy like me who dislikes pumpkin, when you take the essence of pumpkin, the good essence of pumpkin, and you mix that with chocolate, it is beautiful, you know?
Huh.
And same thing with all these other things.
Okay.
So you might not like a straight shot of vanilla, and you might not like pumpkin, but if you can take the very best essence of the pumpkin and add some French vanilla and some cream and some chocolate, it's a whole new world, you know?
See, this is mind-boggling for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a guy, I'm really good at, I can cook ribs like a madman. That's about it.
Yeah.
I can make toast.
Yeah.
Like damn good toast. If I get the right butter.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
You ever
I'll burn a butter.
try sous vide? Yeah.
No, tell me about that.
Sous vide is it's basically you take your ribs or your protein, whatever your meat is, and you vacuum seal it in a bag, and it's a water circulator. So your sous vide machine is a wand, much like your water bottle here.
You put the ribs in a vacuum sealed package,
Yep.
we could use, like we have one at home. Okay, so you can do that. Okay.
So my sous vide machine it looks almost like your water bottle. It's blue. It's maybe 1.5 feet long. It's round, cylindrical, and you can use any water container you want. A Rubbermaid bin, doesn't matter. And you fill that with warm water, and then you turn your sous vide circulator on, and it'll heat the water and circulate it. And then you add your vacuum sealed meat submersed in the water. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's interesting about sous vide is it takes a while to cook this way, but you'll have for example, when you grill a steak, the outside is going to be fairly medium cooked, the inside is red, right? So if you use sous vide, I can make an absolutely scientifically perfect medium rare, 140 degrees from edge to edge. So the very edge of the meat is just as cooked as the center of the meat. It's perfectly scientifically cooked edge to edge, right? And what you do, like in the case of steak, is you cook it in the sous vide until it's up to temperature. So it's perfect medium rare, scientifically perfect medium rare. And you put your salt and your seasoning in the bag. And then you do what they call reverse sear. You take the steak out of the sous vide machine, slap it on the barbecue, and brown it, and then Bob's your uncle. Right?
Interesting.
Yep. So the best way to have ribs, I think, is to throw them in a sous vide for like 2 days. So they're sitting in that warm, circulated water, perfectly cooked for like 2 days. Then throw it in your smoker, get the smoke flavor and the char on it. And that meat does not fall off the bone, slide off the bone.
Most juicy man, I'm going to try this. I got a rack of ribs at home.
And so,
sweet.
Yeah, another friend of mine, he makes liver, and a lot of people don't like liver. I grew up where my dad would fry liver until it's just been turned to shoe leather. But I got a chef friend, his name's Troy Chandler, and he made me liver once, and it was phenomenal. He takes liver, and he sears it, so it's almost a third of the way cooked on one side. He flips it, does a quick sear on the other side, and then he makes a demi-glace. So a demi-glace is like a gravy, but it's not thickened with flour or cornstarch. It's sort of like it's different, but it's kind of like making a gravy, and then you reduce it and reduce it and reduce it with no thickening agent until it's actually thick enough to coat the back of a spoon.
Uh-huh.
So it's like a gravy of sauce, but there's no flour in it. It's just reduced and thickened and thickened. You maybe this liver, and he put some demi-glace on it, and dude, it was absolutely killer. Didn't taste like liver, tasted like steak.
Is he local?
He's local. Yeah, he's here. He's in North. Right now, he's at the Culinary Stone in Riverstone.
Oh,
awesome
cool.
guy. He's freaking hilarious.
That's
He's
awesome.
a big time crazy hunter too.
Is he?
I got some stories I can't share with you on the air, but this guy's awesome. He's total nut job.
I might have to get him on the
Coolest guy.
podcast too.
You should, because he's a chef.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
He has some of the craziest hunting stories you ever heard.
Huh.
And I've heard some of the craziest stories about him too on some of his hunting adventures. But it's all about adding something to it, And probably the three best game meats I ever had was gemsbuck,
Mm-hmm.
mountain lion, and caribou. And
Okay.
the mountain lion I had.
You're like the third person that said that about mountain lion.
Yeah.
And I've never had mountain lion.
Yeah. So
tell me about
It's
that.
kind of sad that a lot of people hunt mountain lion, but they won't. Most hunters I've heard of who've actually filled the tag in a mountain lion don't eat it.
Yeah.
And for those of you who haven't, you're missing out on one of the greatest meals you can ever have.
Do you hunt cats?
I never killed my own.
Yeah, me neither.
I've heard them, I've stalked them, but I've never got a shot at one.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of them. I've never actively. I just always see them when I'm elk hunting or something,
Yeah.
So.
But it's the most mild, flavored, soft meat you could get. So if I had someone who say was opposed to hunting, right, and the thought of eating game that would gross them out or whatever, maybe someone from a big city somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
not used to the natural life kind of thing, I'd feed a mountain lion without even thinking about it, right? It tastes like tender veal.
Okay, so
Very mild tender veal.
maybe we should go try mountain lion hunting this spring. No, or in the fall.
So you know how the Washington Fish and Game gets their mountain lion count numbers?
From the trappers
No.
No.
It's interesting. They find the elk in the spring when the elk are calving,
Uh-huh.
having their babies. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Even though I can't pronounce it.
I always say
having their
calving.
babies. Right.
Yeah.
And they find the elk when they're calving. Dang it. When they're having their babies.
When they are birthing
right.
these babies.
And they predator call over the elk. They find the elk and they set up a predator call with like a fawn distress call, and that's how they count the cougars. When the cougars come in, they count them. Right?
Okay.
And so the best way for your listeners, I think, to try to get an elk, to try to get a mountain lion, is to find the elk and predator call around the elk, because go after the food source.
Yeah.
The lions are after the elk, whether they're having babies in the spring or in the fall. If you want to find a cougar, find the elk and predator call for cougar where the elk are.
See, and I think that's why I haven't ever hunted mountain lion, because I've always, I think I've seen enough of them in the woods that I felt like it wasn't much of a challenge. But I've said that before, and people just bawl me out over that, because apparently it's pretty tough. But I just always see them look up in the trees.
Trying to get one without hounds, dude. You're like
it's
you're
tough.
like hunting leprechauns.
Yeah.
The only way I can think is either if you're damn lucky and you happen to see one following the elk or a deer, or you call one in.
Interesting. I want to circle back to one thing real quick that you said, because you've got you did this brilliant thing, because you're a realtor.
Yeah.
And now you've got the pizza company.
Yeah.
You did this really brilliant thing several years ago and started this Facebook page called North Idaho Life.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you had somebody had posted some hunting stuff on there last fall, and it got a little bit contentious on there. And you had a really good explanation to one of these. It's not like they were anti-hunters. I don't know how to explain them. What do you say to those kind of people to when you're justifying your lifestyle as a hunter? I always ask this in the sense that, we're not trying to be jerks. We're trying to make them understand. Can you do that here?
Gosh, I know the post you're talking about, but I can't remember my response.
I don't remember exactly. I just remember reading it and thinking, Keith did a really good job explaining that to somebody.
It was pretty brilliant.
It was pretty brilliant.
And one gal came in and she said, I've never hunted. I've never liked hunting. I've never thought about it. But what you said brings me peace about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly what I said. The basic premise of North Idaho Life is that if it's legal, I don't want your opinion on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If it's illegal, we don't do crime.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's pursuing a legal activity, and hunters will fight with each other too.
Oh, absolutely.
So
hunters will fight with each other over more so than a lot of other groups will.
Yeah.
And I get disappointed with hunters because we get so contentious sometimes. But it's like
like your muzzleloaders. You'd have your Daniel Boone traditionalists, and you got your guy with the night inline black powder, and they fight.
It's bullshit. Just calm down out there.
It is.
But I'm always curious to get everybody's. Part of the premise of this show is how to unite and be together as hunters as we face a lot of these anti-hunting organizations.
Here's an example why I think North Idaho is so special, and so special to me, and why I feel like this is home.
Okay.
I was at the Post Falls Chamber of Commerce meeting 3 years ago, the Chamber of Commerce, and there's maybe 80, 100 people in the room. And they brought up as the guest speaker that particular day is the student of the year in Post Falls, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to recognize the high school student, one student of the year in Post Falls. Bring her up. Little blonde girl, skinny, little thing. And they asked her about her schoolwork and her grades and what she wanted to do in the future. And then they asked her, what was your greatest accomplishment that you've accomplished this year? And she said, I went out with my dad and I got my first buck. And the whole room stood up and gave her a standing ovation, right? Yay! And she was so proud of that. Went out with her dad and got her first buck. I thought, what an awesome place we live.
That is an awesome situation.
Someone who didn't live with it, or grow up with it, it's about the adventure. It's about the memories. It's about the camaraderie. It's about the outdoors. And no one loves animals and game like the hunter does, right?
I agree.
The non-hunter does not appreciate elk or love elk or adores elk like the hunter does, right? The casual observer, the casual hiker, if they see whatever in the field, say grouse. Oh, look, bird, But a hunter's going to say, oh, grouse. My gosh, look at that. Whether they're hunting it or not. Usually when they're not hunting it.
We get excited. That's our life.
You adore and love these animals. And so there's that part of it. And then there's my kids grew up on game meat. Funny story about my son in the Marine Corps is my dad went in, when I was a kid, I kept hearing stories about how much my dad loved the food. We got mashed potatoes and we got meatloaf.
Your dad loved the food in the Marine Corps.
My dad loved the food in the Marine Corps.
Boy, must have been in a different time than me, that's for sure.
and so I grew up thinking, gosh, they feed you like kings in the Marine Corps. and then my son went in, and he graduated from MCRD in San Diego.
Marine Corps Recruit Depot.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And I saw him, like, how was the food? Because my dad raved about it when I was a kid growing up. He said, Dad, it was awful. Pancakes and green beans was disgusting.
Yeah.
And I'm dumbfounded. And my dad was there. My dad flew in to see his grandson's Marine Corps graduation.
Oh, that's great.
And my dad went there too. And
that's where I went, was San Diego.
Yeah. And it was cool seeing, my dad went there in the early 60s. Now he went to see his grandson there in the 2000s, And same place, same
That's
buildings,
such a good story.
Same everything,
Love that, yeah.
And so I'm kind of dumbfounded. I was like, how come my dad grew up, all I heard about was how good they fed him in the Marine Corps, and my son goes in and says it's disgusting. And I thought to myself, you know what? My son grew up on game meat. I cooked. He grew up eating bear meat, elk, eland, gemsbuck, rabbit, duck. And I'd make garlic mashed potatoes with buttercream sauce, this kind of stuff, right? And my son went in, his green beans and pancakes and bland stuff. And I thought, you know what the difference is? My dad was an orphan. He grew up in an orphanage. And then he was finally raised by his grandparents. He grew up poor, right?
Yep.
So when they took my dad out of Nebraska and shipped off to the Marine Corps and they fed him 3 hot meals a day, that was like the greatest thing ever.
That's funny. I kind of knew where you were going with that because I remember when I was in boot camp and I was in really good shape. I played high school football and all this stuff, and I still was a damn diet recruit. When I got there, they put me on this diet, right? Because I was exceeding the weight for my height or whatever, just barely.
So my son was the same, but my son had one hobby, right? Lifting weights.
Oh, gotcha. So that'll do it.
And his second hobby was chopping wood.
Yeah, in the Marine Corps, they don't care about lifting weights in boot camp.
And so he thought he had a waiver from his recruiter, because, recruiters always tell the truth.
Yes. Mine was such a model of honesty.
So when they went to ship out, he shipped out in Seattle. And so he forgot his Social Security card.
Oh.
So I had to drive back to Idaho. And my wife met me halfway through with a Social Security card, so we could meet in Ritzville or something. I could run us, because he couldn't ship out with a Social Security card. And that accomplished, then he's overweight. And so the sergeants down there, they put him through the drill. Let me see you do 20 pull-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And Mick was a weightlifter, bodybuilder, and he's killing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had to wait for the last minute till the base commander in San Diego would sign off on him. And but they signed off on him as he's overweight. So I'm doing pull-ups and push-ups and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And they finally let him go. But
and what I was getting at is I noticed when I got to boot camp there were guys in my platoon that thought the chow hall was the best thing since sliced bread. It was like the best thing they've ever had in their life, right?
I just wonder what kind of crap
and it's
did
like,
they grow up
man,
on?
where the hell did you grow up? For like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
I'd rather slam my toe in the door than eat this cheeseburger they made.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to talk about the cooking, and let's talk a little bit more hunting too, is that the French really perfected taking cheap, tough, inedible meats and making them absolutely delicious. You know, and in the French cooking style, because they were a peasant country, right? After the French Revolution, this kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. You had a lot of undesirable cuts that the average, French peasant had to deal with. But learn how to do it. There was one thing I made. It was did a big Thanksgiving thing, and I did turkey. And I found at Cash and Carry a neck roll, a beef neck roll. I have no idea what that is. I've never seen one since. But when I pick out meat at the store, I'm always poking the package. I want something that's pillowy soft. And when you're cooking meat, your listeners can't hear this, but I'm squeezing together my thumb and my index finger, and there's a little pillowy pocket between my thumb knuckle and my index finger knuckle. Poke that, Jim.
All right.
Right there.
Oh, yeah, right. This is the soft part.
That's medium rare.
Uh-huh.
So when you go to a restaurant to order a steak,
I'm going to practice that. Right.
That's medium rare.
Gotcha.
So restaurant chef, they're not going to cut your steak open and check it on the middle like a lot of guys do at home. They're not even going to put a meat thermometer in it. They're poking your steak with their finger the whole time, feeling its texture to see how done it is.
Huh.
There's an easier way. I don't think it's as accurate, but a lot of chefs do it. So if I hold my thumb and my index finger together, and the base of my thumb, what would you call this? The palm?
Yeah, the bottom, the palm of your thumb there.
Palm of my thumb. You poke that. Okay, Jim? That's rare.
So, but how much pressure are you putting on your thumb and index?
Just touch them.
Just touch them. Okay.
Just touch them. That's rare. Okay. Now touch together your thumb and your middle finger and your thumb tips. Feel that?
Okay. We need to do a video of this.
That's medium rare.
Okay.
Okay. Now hold your thumb and your ring finger together. Poke it again.
And ring finger. Hang on.
Thumb and your ring finger. That's well done.
That's well done. Okay.
Now put together your thumb and your pinky.
Okay.
That's burnt to shit.
That's a great trick.
But when you're cooking, and it works with chicken too. Chicken's a little different once you get the feel for it. But
interesting. Yeah. We need. I'm going to do a video. We need to do. I wish I would have had the camera set up to go through that.
Throw some steaks on the grill and feel them. Poke them with your finger. I can even bounce the spatula and see how firm they are.
Yeah,
when you're cooking a steak, that's medium rare right there.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how thick it is. You just poke it.
I'm going to use that. Looks like you got restaurant patrons coming in.
So the restaurant's open. We're starting to fill up with some customers here. And I got to get my kid from school.
Yeah, we better start wrapping. We're hitting a little over an hour and a half here.
Yeah. I got 15 more minutes to share more good stories with you.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, good. Well, what do you have there?
Oh, just some notes about some hunts I did, and
give us your craziest hunting story.
And again, me being who I am, it's the excitement, right? And so me and my football buddy, he used to play for the Huskies, were out bear hunting, and I heard a bear making noise on this hillside. I guess I hunt bear mostly by sound, right? You silence, sound, binoculars, right? And a bear's a ghost. And when a bear's feeding on all fours, they're really, really low. You can't see them. If they're on all fours feeding on a berry bush or something. So I hear this bear on this hillside, and I try to go up and circle around, see if I could see it. But I can't. It's way too thick. As soon as I walked to this trail to try to get up and above, because of the lay of the land and the brush, couldn't see anything, right? my buddy's behind me, and so I'm trying to get up above this bear to see if I could see it, and then I hear the shot like that. And you know how exciting that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I go running down there, and the bear poked his head out, and he shot it, and shot it in the shoulder and broke its shoulder. Right.
This is in Washington, right?
This is Washington, yeah,
okay.
Around North Bend. And so I come back down, and this bear is on this hillside, and it is so thick you can't see inches, right? And so trying to figure out what to do, and once the game's on with the bear, we're not just gonna, one of us is gonna die,
mm-hmm.
and we're gonna have to crawl in there after it. So I had my M1 Grand, and my buddy had a 270, I think, and so we had no cell service there or anything like that, and we're just gonna have to crawl in there on our bellies,
mm-hmm.
right? And so before we do that, and none of us were looking forward to that, my football buddy, he takes a rock and he chucks it as hard and far up the hill as he can. He yells, "Hey, bear!" Right? And this bear starts coming for us, right?
Uh-huh.
He threw a rock and yelled at it, and it's coming down the hill at us. And you can't see, we can see the branches, brush move. It's
mm-hmm.
this bear is barreling down this hill right at us,
Jeez.
And so the only chance I had at it was it came over this log, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for a second, the first thought that hits my mind is Mickey Mouse. You see this blacker than black, round Mickey Mouse Mouseketeer hat.
Uh-huh.
The round dome, the two round ears on the side. The first thing that comes to my mind is Mickey Mouse. And I throw my M1 Grand and have the sights right between his eyes. And for some reason unknown to me, even to this day, my buddy grabs my arm and says, "Don't shoot, don't shoot." And I just had one split second. This bear's over this log, and this bear's continuing to barrel down at us, right?
Uh-huh.
My buddy takes a couple shot or two, and nothing. And then the bear gets ground level. And I told you the story last week. It was the only time I had ever in my life ever heard a bear growl. So this bear growled like a pit bull or a dog, right?
Oh, it's funny you say that.
I've heard bears bawl when they're wounded.
Uh-huh.
I've never heard actually bear growl like a lion.
Yeah, I was telling. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
So this bear finally gets down to ground level with us, and it stops. And we're looking through the saplings and underbrush, and all I see is just this black hole that's darker than night. Remember we talking about it's looking for something that's unnatural, that doesn't fit?
Yep.
And it's moving, but I can't pick out any of his body parts. When you see a bear on a hillside, you can't tell the front end from the back end.
Uh-huh.
It's just an evolving black ball of I don't know what. And there's just this blackness there in the trees. And I take a shot, and the sapling between me and the bear just explodes, right?
Jeez.
My bear hit a sapling between us. If it weren't for the sapling, would have hit the bear, explodes. Mm-hmm. And then the bear, before I took that shot at the bear, the bear stops. And we're ground level. We're 20 yards apart. Mm-hmm. And then the bear just breathes and goes, like, "I'm going to shred you apart, buddy." But it was so deep and
that
so...
pit bull sound.
Yeah, it was so deep and so low and so effortless. It was the spookiest damn thing you've ever heard.
Yeah. Yep, I've heard that exact. Yep.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And so I said to my buddy, like, back up. And that's, I think, when I shot the sapling between us, And the bear steps out, and we both fire simultaneously. And my buddy shot it in the jaw, broke his jaw, and I shot it right in the temple and dropped this thing like a sack of potatoes.
Oh, jeez.
And that was my buddy's last round.
Oh, no kidding.
So he's empty. And anyway, so we waited. I'm like, wait, we'll just sit tight.
Uh-huh.
The bear just dropped like a sack of potatoes. Sit tight. We just got charged by this bear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have my gun up, my M1 Grand, and wait a minute. Let's watch this thing. And then went up and poked it in the eye, and it was dead. And that was an incredible memory. And the next day, my buddy Larry, we used to go bear hunting with, he wants to go out again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we get in his Jeep, we drive up, we leave the pavement, and we hit the gravel road and log road, go up a completely different mountain. And my knees are knocking, and I got butterflies in my stomach. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this again. We just got charged by a bear the day before, And
well, who tagged that one the day before?
He did.
Oh, okay.
He took the first shot. He tagged it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But pretty good experience.
Yeah,
quite a memory,
great.
I tell you. I still have that bear school.
Oh, do you?
Yep. I had the taxidermist mounted on like a 30 degree angle shield. And then I had him take the claws. He made like a bear claw necklace that rings the
right
jawline on the bear skull. Yeah,
I like it.
Yep.
I think we're going to have to do this again.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. So
and next time we'll get some pizza, and we'll talk more hunting.
I'm totally going to order some pizza today too.
We'll talk more hunting and more cooking and stuff like that.
Yep, I'd love to. We're coming up to it here.
One thing about the game meat, I was talking about the French style of cooking, is that I did this neck roll once, right? And the principle of cooking protein in general, meat, red meat specific, is that the bigger the meat, or the tougher the meat, or the older the animal, the more careful you have to be with it, right? So one of the principles is if you
why is that?
Because it'll seize up and get tough, so you have to treat the meat delicately, right?
Okay.
And so one of the examples I use is that if you put a frog in a pot of boiling water, the frog will jump out immediately. If you put a frog in hot water, it'll jump right out. But if you put a frog in a saucepan of lukewarm water that's room temperature, and you turn the burner on, he'll stay in that pot until you cook him. He doesn't know he's being cooked.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You put him in hot water, he knows, and he seizes up and he jumps out. But if you put him in room temperature water and cook him slowly, he doesn't know he's being cooked. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing with meat. If you're using, I got this African eland, right? And I gave a German friend of mine's mother a big roast of it. And eland's known for being extremely tender eating. And a matter of fact, Theodore Roosevelt wanted to import them to the U.S. That would be the new cattle because they're big, they're tender. He wanted to try to make them domestic cattle in the United States. Yeah, Theodore Roosevelt did. And asked her what she thought. She's like, it was kind of tough. Like, it was tough? How do you cook it? So I took that roast and I boiled it. Like, oh my gosh, you probably made him a gigantic rock, And the thing is, with when I pick out meat, I try to find something pillowy soft, and you cook it low and slow so it doesn't know it's being cooked. So if you find a chuck roast in the grocery store and you poke it with your finger through the cellophane and it's pillowy soft, if you cook that at 180 degrees, it won't know it's being cooked, and when it's done, it'll be just as soft as it is in the package.
Really?
Same thing with game meat, right?
Okay.
So another thing is resting the meat. So if you want something juicy and tender, you have to rest the meat. And what I mean by that is if you cook meat, it's seizing up. So I'm squeezing my fist right now. Your listeners can't, but I'm squeezing my fist. Okay, that's cooking meat. Okay.
Okay.
And let's say I have a sponge filled with water, and I'm squeezing it with my fist, but I'm tight enough for the water's not going to leak out. Okay. And you cut that meat. It's like squeezing that once there's an opening, I'm squeezing that sponge, and all that liquid is going to drain right out.
Makes sense. Right? Okay.
But you take that sponge you're squeezing, and you lay it down in a plate of water. Let's say a paper plate, and you got water in it, and you're squeezing that sponge, which is being cooked, and you put that in a plate of water. That sponge is going to suck up all the water, right? It's the same thing with resting a turkey or resting, an elk steak.
Like resting after
deer roast.
You cook.
Right.
You're talking.
So when you take the meat off the heat source, and you want to do it before it's fully cooked, the temperature will continue to rise while it's resting, right? Let's say it's an elk steak, right? And you want it medium rare. Cook your elk roast or whatever to about 130 degrees, which is below medium rare, and rest it off the heat on the countertop for 10 minutes, right? The internal temperature is going to continue to rise, but as that meat relaxes from being cooked, like a sponge being put on a plate of water, it's going to start sucking up those juices. So a turkey, if you cook a turkey for Thanksgiving, cook your turkey to about 145 degrees internal temp, and then rest it on the countertop. And instead of squeezing out those beautifully sucking the juices, it's going to, once it starts to rest and relax, it's going to suck them all in.
Okay, we're going to have to talk more about this stuff.
All right.
That's super interesting to me.
I think what we should do is get together for a couple steaks.
We should.
Yeah, and we'll poke them, and we'll rest them, and we'll season them, and we'll eat like kings.
I think so, too.
Beer and some steaks.
Yeah. I'm all for it. You come out to my place in the woods for that if you want.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We could do a good old-fashioned North Idaho bonfire and barbecue some steaks.
That's right.
That's what we do.
I got some sturgeon. I'll show you my secret for cooking sturgeon.
All right.
When I cook sturgeon, it comes out tasting like a cross between chicken breast and lobster. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. You gonna go? You going out for spring bear this spring?
Probably not this spring. I got the restaurant just opened.
Yeah.
I just was notified this morning that I was one of the 5 finalists for Best Realtor in North Idaho. I found out this morning.
Yeah, for commercial and residential, right?
Commercial and residential, yep. So I got so much on my plate, and it's interesting. If you ever want to go sometime, we'll do some bear hunting. I was interviewing the head of Fish and Game here in Idaho when we had a bad fire season about 4 or 5 years ago, right? And it was a non-story. I want to ask him about how elk and deer populations are affected with all the wildfires we had going on. And he said they're really not. They know how to get away from fire. They know how to escape.
Yeah.
They're not going to get stuck or die in a forest fire kind of thing. It kind of surprised me, but what do I know? And it's okay. Off the record, where's the best area to go bear hunting in?
Uh-huh.
And he told me, I'm not going to tell you on air to your listeners. He said, go here, and it's the highest bear populations in the state. He says it averages 4 bears per square mile.
Oh, really?
Yep. And there's national forest there. And he says, but be careful because there's also grizzlies.
Yeah.
So be careful what you're shooting at. And,
for sure.
So
careful what brush you're poking your stick in.
I'm going to keep that secret to myself.
All right, I like it.
But Jim, if you want to go and bring a portable barbecue, we'll do it up.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the restaurant before we wrap this up?
Oh, not really. It was all about the atmosphere. What I told the chef is that the atmosphere is just as important as the food is.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have big Edison light bulbs. We got dark lighting. We got lots of decor and artwork. We got canoe. We got the Blue River. We want a place that was really cool to hang out at. That people would talk about. This place is awesome. And then the food would be just as awesome. So as I said, we're a small artisan shop. We make our own dough from scratch every day. We ferment it 5 days, brush it with garlic confit, our own herbs and spices blend we develop, and really high quality ingredients. So we have a carne asada pizza with marinated steak.
Oh, man.
We got a Freaks and Greek pizza that we have out.
Uh-huh.
And we have the Gunslinger. So the Gunslinger is my creation. The Gunslinger is basically a meat lover's pizza.
Uh-huh.
With a nice, robust red sauce, but the red sauce is drizzled with Arizona Gunslinger hot sauce.
Uh-huh.
And so it's not burn your face off hot. But it's a peppery, spicy meat lover's pizza, just delicious. We do have one coming out called the Towering Inferno, and that's for those insane people who like to have their head explode.
I'm going to try the Gunslinger tonight and that chicken one.
Yeah, the chicken one's really good. We use
with the white sauce.
Yeah, the white sauce. Yeah, we make that in-house. And then the beautiful thing about the chicken is the chef found these peppers from Peru, and they're called Peruvian sweet drop peppers,
uh-huh.
and little yellow things teardrop shaped, like little teardrop. Right, about the size of a pea, but they have a hook end on them like a teardrop,
mm-hmm.
And they're amazing. They're hard to describe, just peppery and flavorful. We put them in the salads too, but when you bake them and cook these peppers, they're phenomenal.
Okay, that one might be on the list too.
Yeah, roasted chicken with Peruvian sweet drop peppers. The mushroom one's good too. We call it the Fungus Mungus. We have a 5 mushroom blend we put on it, shiitakes, baby portobellas, oyster mushrooms, etc. In a white sauce with garlic confit, and we drizzle it with truffle oil. So that fungus mushroom pizza is pretty good too.
We're gonna try that. All right, guys. So if you're in the North Idaho area, or if you just pass through, make sure you check out Iron Pizza Company. It's right off the freeway. We're on like 4th and Appleway, right?
4th and Appleway, we're right next door to Panda Express.
Yeah, we're right next to Panda Express. Great atmosphere, great food, lots of beer options. And I think there's more to come on that too. So I appreciate you coming on, man.
It's an absolute honor to be here, and
it's been fun.
Yep. Last week I loved it. And you and I could talk all day, and let's go spend some time in the woods together.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah,
I think we should.
Yeah,
for sure. Thanks a bunch for coming on, and all right, guys, we'll talk to you next week.